All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MMA Fighting's 2025 year-end award show. I am Mike Heck. Thank you for joining us as we recap the very best the sport of mixed martial arts had to offer in 2025 and sort of set the bar for fighters heading into 2026. As always, a wacky year in our sport. A lot happened along the way, and we celebrate not the good, but the great from the year that was. But let me assure you of something right here and now, ladies and gentlemen, as you watch or as you listen. For the first time since we started doing this show, things, at least some takes, are going to be probably chastised. Things might get a little heated, maybe as heated as it's ever gotten on this award show. The fighter of the year was all but decided, but one person on our staff went against the mold. In fact, I'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money that this individual is probably the only person on planet Earth that didn't nominate this particular fighter for the fighter of the year. Did not even put this fighter in their top 5. And because of this incredibly wild move, it cost this fighter at least a share of the award, if not outright winning this award. And we are going to discuss this wild take and more than likely not be very kind to the person who presented it. So do not go anywhere. Award show history will be made right here on the 2025 MMA Fighting Awards show. But speaking of the panel, speaking of the takers and the tastemakers, let us introduce the panelists, the co-hosts of the show, as you get ready to give out some hardware. First, this man is the Prince of Positivity, the man who carries the torch, so to speak, the man who organizes this whole thing, these award shows, these awards for us. He's our under-the-radar MVP over at MMAfighting.com, without a doubt, the one and only Alexander K. Lee, repping the greatest website in the world, my best friend. Hello, AK.
Hi, everybody. Mike, I'm gonna do the whole show in that voice. Is that okay? I'm trying a new thing.
Is that Mickey? Is it Goofy? Is it a combination of the two? I can't figure it out.
I'm not familiar with those characters, so I'm not sure who you're talking about. That's an original creation of mine. What's up, my best friend? Yeah, listen, it may be a little contentious today. Not between us. We're gonna be very careful here because you have teased a segment later, which unfortunately I think may not involve the voter in question, but that's okay. We will let we will be respectful about it. We will certainly let the fans let their word be heard. But I'm looking forward to it. Other than that, I think we picked some fantastic winners this year, and this is a show about positivity. I'm actually just really excited to go back and look at some of these amazing moments that we had in 2025, because we do a lot of complaining, we do a lot of criticizing of the UFC and sometimes MMA in general. But there's a reason we keep coming back to it. When fight night rolls around, magic happens. And we had quite a bit of that this year, I think.
Well, it's great to have you here, AK. And let us say hello to that man right there. He is Mr. No Gray Area, the hot take kid. You might know him from BTL. You certainly know him from No Bets Barred. And there is certainly not a fence for him to sit on. He just doesn't sit on any fences. He's from MMAfighting.com, the one and only Jed Meshew. Jed, how are you? Are you enjoying the holiday spirit? Are you enjoying award season?
Ho ho! We got him wrong. That's my Mickey. There's one award that everything felt like around what I expected, even if maybe I didn't vote for the top spot. As we get into stuff, there is even the award in question. This is what I expected. The outcome, I think, is what I anticipated. I did not think there would be as much momentum for the runner-up officially. But yeah, had we done this award show yesterday, this would have probably been straight mean. I have had 24 hours to basically just get over it. I was going to say come to terms with it, but I won't. I don't agree fundamentally, but yesterday I was a lot more heated about it. So at least today, as we get into it, it can be a little better, but yeah, there's that. And then the rest of it it's great. I'm rocking my PFL hat today as a potential spoiler to one of the awards, maybe multiple of the awards handed out this year. I love year-end lists. I love lists. I loved doing the voting. I went back and I watched everything, not every fight, but all of the stuff in our contenders grouping. We sort of made a pile, and I went back and I watched it and I reevaluated and I tried to give the best ballot I could. And I think we, broadly speaking, got everything about right. I might quibble with one or two things, but you know, there's a reason that MMA Fighting is a great website. It's because we get it right more often than not.
Well said, and I'm glad you said that, because before we actually give away the first award, and we'll do so in a couple of moments, I wanted to ask you both this question based on what Jed said, because you have both been a part of this awards panel, voting for these awards for far longer than I have. This is the fifth time I have done this, and
I think
AK,
this is my 10th.
10. Where are you at, AK?
I mean, it can't be more than 8. I guess 8 would be as long as I've been with.
This is
MMA
either
Fighting,
9 or
so,
10 for me.
Can't be more than 8 for me.
But I want to start with you, AK, because usually there might be one, maybe two awards that are somewhat and even up to super competitive, but more often than not, it's pretty easy to pick a winner for a lot of this stuff. But it's always the hardest part of it is filling out the rest of the top 5. That seems to be where most of our time is spent. This year, it seemed like every category was competitive. Every category was at least somewhat tough to call in some regard. Top to bottom, AK, over your 8 or so years in doing this, is this the closest consistently you've seen these awards, top to bottom? And if not, can you compare it to any other year?
People know I have the memory of a goldfish, Mike. Anyone that watched our prop quiz competition, guys, check that out on YouTube if you hasn't, knows that I have a terrible, terrible memory when it comes to like a specific events, like what fights and which fighters appeared on certain events, and also even year by year. Like I have trouble recapping year by year, so which is why I'm glad to do these like shows, because I get to go back and look at this whole list, and I'm like, oh, everything sort of crystallizes in my mind. And I could have, I can do the same thing for any year if you just show me a list, but I have a very bad memory of this sort of thing. But just talking about from what we saw, like just based on this year, Mike, yeah, you're right for sure. It did feel very broad. It felt very wide. Voting is always interesting because there's sometimes like a difference in philosophy, especially when we're talking about finishes. Say like we're talking about KO, we're talking about sub, because sometimes you want to go with just the most aesthetically pleasing, which a lot of that can actually happen outside of the UFC. And then sometimes you want to go with, the most meaningful, most impactful, which, let's be honest, the majority of it happens in the UFC, right? So you want to find that balance between giving credit to, non-UFC promotions, but also acknowledging that, like, okay, well, this knockout is the one that millions of people saw. It has a real impact on the business. So it has to be recognized. So we'll see. I think we'll get into it. You guys will understand what I'm talking about. If you've seen any of our previous years, you'll see like, oh, wow, I'm surprised this knockout from like PFL ranked higher than this one from UFC, whatever. But, we try and justify it. We try and make sense of it. And in the best moments, maybe shine a light, honestly, on some of these moments that some fans didn't get to see. So I think for me, variety is a good thing. I think the fact that we weren't necessarily unanimous on a lot of these lists is a good thing. People will see the ballots at MMAfighting.com when all these awards go out, and you guys will be able to see like, oh, wow, like these votes are all over the place. And I think that's a good quality to have.
They'll actually be able to see them here as well. Jed, your thoughts on how, I guess, competitive the awards were compared to any of the years past you've been a part of?
There was only one award that I knew before I walked in what it was, right? Like where I was like, as we were approaching the end of the year, and I didn't have to be like, okay, I went back and I watched it all, but I knew what sub of the year was. I had no doubt about this, in the same way that like we all knew last year that Max Holloway was getting knockout of the year. But that's the only award that I didn't at least have some consideration about what would be number one, and the rest of it was still competitive. In fact, I would actually argue that submission of the year, which is usually the most competitive category in my mind, was as competitive as any year ever, outside of the runaway winner for it. So I think AK's, nailed it. It's a tough balancing act. For me, the balancing act is always what do we call of the year, right? What does this award mean? Because I think there are two reasonable interpretations, and one is an insular best, right? And that can include a lot of things. That can include level of competition, et cetera, et cetera. But like, just what is the best thing that happened this year versus what is the most memorable? And that's always the other thing I try and strive to kind of weigh those two factions against each other, because like the UFC 300, that's a great KO and it will live forever. When we think back on the year 2024, that's like the first thing we'll think of. I'm not sure that's true for all of our award sections for 2025, but is that even important? And so that's sort of the competing ideologies in my head as I was making these determinations. And this year was pretty tricky. I am, like I said at the top, when we were talking about the soon to be revealed controversy, I am not confident any of my choices are right. Like I am super open to other interpretations and stuff. And so I'm at least happy and comfortable with what we collectively have come to.
I feel exactly the same way. So let's just get right into things, gentlemen. It is hardware time. We will begin things with... Where are you? Why aren't you coming up? I don't understand.
Get in here, little graphic. Get in here.
Do it.
It was there. It was there. I don't know where it was. I guess we're just going to keep the graphic up here. And that's okay. That's okay. We'll just keep it generic, and that's totally fine. But we are going to do the fight of the year, kicking things off in 2025. And there were a lot of good ones, no doubt about it. In our voting panel of 6, all voted, all gave our thoughts for this award, as well as the rest of these awards. So 6 people in total were part of the panel. So without further ado, here are the nominees for MMA Fighting's 2025 Fight of the Year. Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval, UFC 317. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 3, UFC 318. Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan 2, UFC 323. Nazim Sadikov versus Nicholas Mota, UFC Baku. Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes 1, PFL Dubai. All right, everybody. The 2025 Fight of the Year is... We won't have a drum roll because I don't want to lose the sound of my voice, but it is... Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval at UFC 317. Congratulations to them. What a fight. And gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen watching this, a fight so good, so compelling, that Dana White and the UFC actually paid out more money. Yes, not only did these two competitors win the fight of the night, not only did Josh Van get his win bonus and a title shot from this, Brandon Royval also got his win money from Dana White and the brass. One of the rare 3-round fights to earn that, to win this award. And as you can see, let's pull it up here. Here's how the voting worked out. Van Royval, the only fight that got 2 first-place votes from myself and the great Jose Youngs. Number 2, Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes 1 from PFL Dubai in January. We had a tie for 3rd between Holloway Poirier 3 at UFC 318 and the Sadikov Mota fights from UFC Baku. And number 5 is the last pay-per-view fight maybe ever, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan at UFC 323. So, Jed, let's start with you. A lot of really good fights. This was really tough to narrow down going through every month and some of the big fights that even happened in the first half of the year. In the end, are you happy with how it all turned out? Did we get this right?
I have no idea if we got it right. This is the outcome I anticipated. I'll be honest. I did not, because of the other thing that happened, I didn't really look at our breakdown here. I did not realize how narrow the margin for Van Royval was as the winner, because as you can see, if when you looked on the ballots there, I put it as my number 5. And that was a hard decision for me. This was easily the most difficult category for me to make my selections on. And for a considerable amount of time, I left Van Royval off of my ballot. And then ultimately I was like, I think that it would be a bad look to leave it off my ballot. I think that enough people feel, and it is a great fight. I'm not trying to diminish it, but for a very long time, I had the Contender Series battle between Luna Martinetti and Mark Vologden, which didn't even, as a result, make our honorable mentions since nobody voted for it. That was my number 5, and then ultimately, I was like, I'm pretty sure Van Royval is going to win, and it's a more meaningful fight than the Contender Series battle, certainly, and it's a very good one. And so I am like, had I done that, then maybe it doesn't. Maybe we're talking Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes 1. This was a much more narrow competition than I envisioned, because it felt like this fight had the momentum, if that makes sense, because, spoiler alert, Josh Van had a tremendous year, but the way he won the title kind of works against him. But, this can sort of be a fet of that accomplishment. And, they threw 400 punches in 15 minutes or whatever insane thing they did. And so this is a totally fine selection. But I also think any of the others would have been equally as fine. This was a very competitive year in this category.
AK, Jed had this fight at number 5. You didn't have this on your list at all. And I'm a little surprised by this, but it's not wrong, because like Jed said, and kind of the narrative throughout this is this is a very competitive year for Fight of the Year. Your reaction to this fight winning it, and your decision to not even put it in your top 5.
This list is bullcrap. Shut it down. Shut it down. What are we doing? We're already off to a terrible start.
You at least got 4 of the 5 right, AK. I only have 2 of mine.
No, I only have 3. I'll let you. I'll
you have 3.
Yeah,
that's
I'll
right.
break down in a second. Guillermo also left this one off, but I think as Jed kind of broke down, it shows you how close this list could have been, because here are some other ones I left off. So I left off Van Royval. I also left off Sadikov Mota, which was an amazing fight. So that made our top 5. Amazing fight. You guys can see the breakdown, but the ones I really want to point out, Kevin Holland down Rodriguez was a great fight. The first Marab, was very close to putting 2 Marab fights on here. Like, I love Marab Umar, and I am wondering, is it just because it happened so long ago that I'm forgetting? Also, I think definitively for me, the Jan Marab fight gets the edge. So I'm like, okay, I know I have to put the Jan Marab fight on. It wasn't a battle between those two. Like, definitely the Jan Marab one is better, I think. So that Umar's ended up getting cut off. Duncan Rebetsky was one of the most fun fights of the year. Like, there's so many good fights that could have taken my 5th spot, 4th spot. Honestly, the bottom 3, actually even say from 3 to 5 on my list, all those fights I mentioned, you could have shuffled one of those in there, including Van Royval, and not felt bad about it. So I'm glad it won. I do think this is a pretty strong consensus among the MMA community in general, as far as I can see. And you never want to go against the consensus, guys. But we'll see. We'll see how much of an issue this creates later. So yeah, it just shows how many really, really, really good fights this year and we had this year. And I until Jed mentioned it, I totally forgot that we didn't have the Contender Series fight with Luna Martin.
Didn't make it on the list. That was my number 5.
Yeah, same. Almost made my number 5
before I swapped it out.
Yeah, some really good ones here.
I want to say I do have a bone to pick with one of you, but we can come to that at the end of this section. I want to say that because I didn't say this when I was going, and it sort of crystallized as you were talking, AK. I think this was one of the 2 best fights of the year. My list, is kind of reflected by it. And if you know me at all, if you watched any of our content, you can probably parse this out. My list was mostly the fights I had the most fun watching. And like, maybe they won't stand the test of time, but they were just a great, like, they might not have been excellent displays of martial arts, but they were incredibly fun, and there was some good martial arts going. The Royval Van fight and the Usman Nurmagomedov are 1 and 2. I think those were the 2 best all-around competitive performances, right? Of like high-level skill meets the moment. They're the best quote-unquote fights, and so in that regard, I certainly feel very comfortable with where we've settled.
Yeah, and it's, again, I mean, just kind of looking at everything, 5 points separated first and second, 10 points separated 5th and 1st. That is a very, very close race. 32 points winning an award, that is a pretty low score compared to things I've seen in the past. All 5 of the top 5 got first place votes. Again, that's something that doesn't happen in a lot of these awards that we give away. So super competitive year for fights. Did anything, AK, and I'll just throw it out and whoever wants to answer can answer. Just kind of looking at the list and looking at how this play out. Did anything surprise either of you guys?
I would have liked to have seen Iwo versus Evo as they sneak in there, and it almost did. You again, if you want to see the breakdown, literally 1 vote away, 1/3 or 1/5 place vote away from probably cracking the top 5. And again, I don't know what I would take off. I certainly wouldn't take off Jan Marab too.
You'd take off Sadikov or Van Royval.
Yeah, I know. And Sadikov Moda is a great fight. Like, I mean, like if you want it, because that one Sadikov Moda went 3. That went the distance, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you got a little more bang for your. You got a little more there.
So.
No, someone finished someone.
I have to remember.
You can see why I didn't make. Guys, you can see why I didn't make my list.
Yeah, I think it was a second round knockout for Sadikov. Let me just double check. Yes, right hook, round 2, in the final minute of round 2.
Yeah, so maybe people got a little more action there, but boy, I mean, pound for pound, that Evo fight was just so insane. Recency bias for sure. Like I'm just still high off of it. The fumes are still wafting into my brain. So that's why I would have liked seeing that make it. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know if there's any huge gaps here. Maybe Yuri. I feel like I have to look at the rest of our list. I feel like Yuri got a lot of honorable mentions this year, but
Yuri had 2 fights that were up for fight of the year.
Yeah, he also had a very good he didn't make our fighter of the year. Spoiler, did not make our fighter of the year honorable mentions. But honestly, you could have had him on.
Don't you worry, he's on All Violence. He's gonna be just fine.
So yeah, it's kind of weird to see Yuri not in the top 5 here, and you certainly could have made a space for Yuri and Jamal Hill. But other than that, I think this is really. I'm really glad Sadikov and Moda got in there, because I worried that one would get forgotten, as obviously I did. So I'm glad I made it.
That's the one I'm the most surprised by. Not that it's bad, just that I look at the rest of the names involved. These are all extremely famous, important fighters, and then there's Sadikov and Moda, who, no disrespect, they're not Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill, former light heavyweight champions. They're not even. I was honestly a little surprised, though. Even I didn't vote for it, and I didn't vote for it basically because as I was building my list, I was like, I'm mostly just gonna do the things that I had fun with, but I'll throw in some hero high level fights. I'm a little surprised at Valashvili Nurmagomedov. Maybe it's just because it was in January and that's such a time gap, but that's almost certainly a better fight than Sadikov Mota, like a higher level quality back and forth affair. And so I am a little surprised that made it in, because Sadikov Mota, I'm not surprised that Evo versus Evo didn't, despite me voting for it, because it lasted 90 seconds. And that does really hurt you in these fights, right? That was an insane, chaotic 90 seconds, but Josh Mann and Brandon Royval went 15 minutes doing that basically. So couple of those surprised me. Did anything surprise you, Mike? Because I have a grievance that needs to be addressed after we get to you talking about what may have surprised you.
What may have surprised me, it definitely surprised me, is I was going to go with Barab Ubar, and then I'm the only one who voted for JDM versus Bilal. I'm really surprised by that. I thought that was going to get a lot more votes. In fact, when that fight was over, I was actually pretty confident that would be in the top 3 at the end of the year, no matter what happens. Honestly, I really thought it was going to be up there. I understand that taste may vary. I was actually a little stunned. I was the only one to vote at all for that fight. And that was my number 2 fight of the year. And then we'll get to Jed's grievance in a moment, but if you guys missed it, honorable mentions, as AK said, the incredible Evo versus Ebo fight from UFC 323. UFC 323, two big ones. For sure. Diego Lopez versus John Silva at Noche UFC. Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill, UFC 311. Great fight. Thiago Golarte versus Leonardo Mosquita from Thunder Fight 47.
Quite fun.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Yes.
This is not past the bar for notability. This is what we're talking about when we talk about notability versus, fights that are just regional stuff that happens that is just truly insane. It really should be a separate list. You guys, people who keep up with Miss Fist knows, we keep an eye on this stuff, and that's really where it gets its flowers. But I will just tell people, go find this. Of course, the great Kaposa, the great Grabaka Hitman on Twitter, put the whole thing, the 90 seconds of glory on. incredibly insane stuff. So yeah, I totally fell in love with that fight. I understand people leaving it off completely. If you guys, if anyone dismisses it as just like, well, this happens on the regional level all the time, somewhat true. But I think again, even for a regional level fight, this was just crazy. This fight's insane.
Absolutely wild.
Very fun.
We mentioned JDM Bilal from UFC 315, where JDM wins the welterweight title. Holland D-Rod, incredibly funny and fun, and all the fun and funny synonyms you could possibly use. Marab Umar, UFC 311. I actually thought that would end up a little bit higher on the list, all things considered. And then we had the incredible lightweight apex battles from the same event. Esteban Rivic versus Elvis Brenner, and then Chris Duncan versus Batush Rebetsky rounded out. And Jed, what is your grievance? Throw it out there. Let's discuss this.
My grievance isn't Yuri Prohashka, though. Part of me is like, I think everybody is forgetting who Yuri freaking Prohashka is, as one of the most exciting fighters who ever lived. He had 2 great fights, and we'll talk in a future award. We're giving other fighters credit for multiple fights in one category. We couldn't have juiced him up a little bit. Feels wrong to me, but my true grievance is with you, Mike. Mike Heck.
Let's go.
What are we doing? Well, I know I'm not your best friend. Your best friend's right there. He's on the other side of me on the camera. I get that. But we're friends. We have a rapport. We have a connection, Mike. And you and I sat in your command center and laughed our asses off watching Kevin Holland and Danny Rodriguez fight. At the time, we called it the spiritual successor to Kimbo versus Dada, a fight I have in complete earnestness argued as one of the 5 best fights in the history of this sport. And it's not on your list. What are we doing, Mike? How is that going to be lost to the sands of time and not enshrined forever? This is on you, buddy, and I don't care for it.
So, I mean, this is a very easy answer. Just because it's not enshrined on
ludicrous that you put Sadikov Moda over this masterpiece of a bout.
See, here's the best part about all of this stuff is that I can go back and rewatch it all, because you could take, especially with the watch party fights, you could take the emotion out of it by just rewatching it. And believe me, rewatching Kevin Holland D-Rod, I had a good time.
It's so fun.
But it is not the same as watching it with somebody else who shares the same enthusiasm. It doesn't hit as well watching it by yourself and with commentary on. Like, it's fun, but it is not the same feeling of, and let's throw this out there too, Jed. Part of my hilarity of this all was because of you. Like, the fight was part of it, but your reaction was one. Also, this is the restart of the climb after you lost.
It didn't go
in a
well.
big way because of Daniel Zellhuber losing to Michael Johnson. So, like,
that was a tough back-to-back moment for me.
Most of my laughing was you talking about this fight and maybe ending the next stage of the climb before it even started. So, like, there was a lot of other things that went into it. And then after rewatching these fights, I just couldn't put it on the list. But where it matters, Jed, is right here. It matters right here. It is entrenched in history right here. And if there's a late night and I can't get some sleep, I might just throw that on to get a good giggle before I fall asleep. It's the funniest fight of the year.
It's the biggest snub of 2025.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
I genuinely had this as my number 1 fight for most of my ballot before I was like, I don't think that that's reasonable. This is easily the fight I will remember the most from this year, and by far the most fun I had watching fist fights in 2025. Not even close.
Yeah, and I will weigh fun in a lot of respects. No doubt about it.
That's why it's not my number 1, is I couldn't exclusively weight it on fun, but it was number 2 because, boy, was it fun.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, the fight, as much fun as I had watching D-Rod in Holland, I think the fight that I actually had the most fun with was Yuri Khalil. Like, I really enjoyed that.
Incredibly fun.
But it was mostly, like, the third round that was really fun. Like, Yuri's just always fun. He's just an interesting cat. But, like, if you go back and watch the first round, like, the thing that stood out to me is, like, is Yuri hurt? Is his knee injured? What is happening? And then it tells this story throughout the fight, and then he just goes full Yuri in round 3. So I couldn't put it on my list, but, like, that was the fight I probably enjoyed watching the most. And obviously D-Rod Holland's up there as well for different reasons. But Yeah, it was a fun year to go back and rewatch fist fights. AK, you look like you're about to say a whole lot of stuff.
Oh, I just want to say, I just noticed something on the graphic that I messed up, and I almost destroyed our whole show before it even started. If you look at the graphic, Mike, you'll see I put
I
two,
know.
but luckily,
it didn't matter.
Thank
What did
goodness
you
it didn't
do?
matter. Yeah. So for anyone who sees the graphic and then kind of double, they're like, oh, well, there are 2 7s on Mike's list. How is the top 5 correct? I went back. I just checked Mike's ballot. Thankfully, Nurmagomedov Hughes 1 was your 5, not your 7. Thus, it would still have 25 points and still be in second place. So everything is fine. I will have to correct that, I think, hopefully before that post goes out.
Yes.
But I had a little heart attack there. I was like, oh my gosh, did I
That would have
ruin
been
the show?
legitimately comeback of the year.
Because if it had gone the other way, would it have made it? Oh yeah, it would have tied. Then
we're at a tie.
Iwo versus Ebo would have been tied for 5th. So tied for 5th. So no issue. Everything's good, guys. Yes, you do see an error on the graphic.
No. Do it wrong so that way Ebo versus Ewo can be tied for 5th.
It should be on the list. But no, the order is correct. The order is correct. So the math is a little off because of me, but the order is correct.
Well, I mean, drama already. Great start to the festivities. That was the 2025 Fight of the Year award. Congratulations to Joshua Van, the UFC flyweight champion, and Brandon Royval. I have a feeling both those guys will be nominated in future years as well. I feel like Brandon Royval is always nominated, and Josh Van's just 24 and has 716 fights already under his record.
It's had 3 more since we started this.
I know. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But we are far from done, including, again, don't go anywhere, the most contentious award in voting in MMA Fighting Awards history. Even though I've been here for 5 years, I think this might be the most contentious award ever. And we will discuss that
in
at
my
the end of the
almost
show.
10 years. I'm confident in saying yes, that is an accurate assessment.
Yes. But now we head to the world of jiu-jitsu. We head to the submission game. It is time to award the 2025 MMA Fighting Submission of the Year. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the nominees for this prestigious award. Costello Von Steenis over Johnny Eblin at PFL Africa. Kayla Harrison over Juliana Pena at UFC 316. Sean Brady over Leon Edwards at UFC London. Walter Walker, 3 consecutive heel hook submission victories. John Silva over Bryce Mitchell at UFC 314. Heck of a crop of nominees right there, but there can only be one winner. The 2025 Submission of the Year winner is, drumroll please, where are you at, PFL Nation? It is Costello Von Steenis for his shocking middleweight championship winning 5th round submission of Johnny Eblin at PFL Africa. Also, one thing missing from this, which I'm gonna pull up in a second. I want to shout out Jake Pilla with the reverse knee bar lockdown thing from Combat FC. Shout out New England Regional MMA. Jake Pilla was tied for 5th on this list as well. And I'm going to pull up the entire graphic right now so you guys can all check it out. There you have it. But 4 first place votes for Costello Von Steenis. The other first place votes, pretty shocking, honestly. Guilherme Cruz going outside of the UFC's Octagon, going to Octagon, the promotion, with Henrique Madureira tapping Eriglint Prizreni at Octagon 80 with an inverted triangle. Maybe even more shocking to me, Kayla Harrison getting a first place vote for her submission of Juliana Pena at UFC 316.
And Mike, were it not for that first place vote, your boy Mr. Pilla would have the fifth place spot all to himself. So that is almost an egregious first place vote. But again, we'll get to more egregiousness later. Big shout out to Guido for the inverted triangle. I mean, that was crazy. I wish I could have found for a spot for it on my list. I'm looking at it now. I just don't see who I could have bumped off. I feel very strongly with my top 5. Again, if I was going to go regional, I think the Pillow one was just so crazy. I just don't think I'd seen that before in an MMA fight. Maybe I just don't remember. But the Madureira, the Toby Amada homage was absolutely fantastic. The only item on our ballots to get a first place vote and not end up in the top 5. So kind of interesting there. And Jed, I want to throw it to you. I want to say, I'm trying to think how many guesses would I've had to give you if at the end of 2024, if I was going to say, who do you think will win the 2025 submission of the year? Like if I given you
at the end of 2024,
yeah. If I give you 200 guesses, like name,
I wouldn't have been close.
400.
Nope.
1,000. If I given you 1,000 guesses, would you have landed on Crystal?
I would have gotten in 1,000
Okay.
because at that point I would have named everybody on UFC roster and PFL roster,
Okay.
so I would have gotten it.
But it's in that range. You would need close to 1,000 guesses to have gotten our
yeah.
actual
I
winner.
never would have pulled this out. I also do just very briefly want to say y'all have buried the lead because the graphic is terrific for our number 2 finisher, but. Yeah, man, I said at the start of this, right? There was one award. I knew what I was doing. I knew what was going to win. I am honest to goodness shocked it was not a unanimous consensus number 1 pick. At least the Maduro Pristiani one is cool. I think that's an incorrect choice, but it is at least cool. Sure, Kayla Harrison did submit Juliana Pena. I guess that's the number 1 pick for some people. But like this is very obviously the most significant, the coolest one. No, it's not a flashy flying mighty whiz bar or whatever, but it is an incredible game-saving, title-changing comeback win. Castelo Von Steenis, despite having competed admirably against Johnny Eblen, was on his way to losing that fight. He was seconds away from losing that fight. And at the time it happened, we were like, oh my, what? Oh, whoa, it's over. He did it. It was an incredible thing. And like, if this happened for knockout, if somebody hit a knockout like this in a significant fight, this was not random PFL Mena, a 2-1 guy versus an 0-2 guy. Like this was the champion, the PFL champion, losing on a last second submission, his first career loss. Like this was a runaway winner. The only thing we got wrong in this is that not everybody put it at the top, and those people are wrong, straight up just wrong. But it didn't matter because this isn't like this isn't like Fighter of the Year where 30 points got you to the win. This is a clear winner. Yeah,
AK. I mean, honestly, I thought if there was going to be a unanimous shout, it was this one. Were you surprised it wasn't unanimous? I mean, there were some cool submissions, and oftentimes we could dig a little deeper for submissions more so than knockouts. But I thought this was, like Jed said, I thought this is kind of a no-brainer to be the unanimous consensus, like all in number 1. I mean, the right guy won, and he won it by a lot, but I'm surprised there was even a 4th or a 5th place vote on this submission.
Yeah, I am a little surprised because when it happened, we just said like, well, this is lockdown. Like, when was this? This was in July, so there's still a lot of MMA to go. We were still like, well, that's it. Nothing's going to top that. We're like, we have no idea how anything's going to top that. This is crazy, and it's not like Costello Van Steenis is not a submission guy. Like the guy has several submissions on his resume. I think more submissions than knockouts. So, but against Johnny Eblen, that just wasn't how we thought he was going to win it. Because I don't know if you were predicting Van Steenis to win. I don't think you necessarily had to go the puncher's chance route. Maybe you thought he could have won a 48-47 decision, but he was an considerable underdog. As Jed said, was pretty clearly losing the fight going to the 5th round. Like he was wearing Eblen down. He had won the 4th or won one of the rounds before. Like there were moments where like, oh wow, Van Steenis is kind of wearing him down. But all Eblen really has to do is kind of grind out this last round and he'll be fine. He's going to retain his title. And that's not what happened. We got a surprising submission. Eblen had to reach down deep too. It's not like he was fresh as a daisy. Sorry, Van Steenis, I should say. So it was an awesome moment. Great moment for a veteran, like a guy that's just kind of been around for a bit, came in with a bit of hype, maybe didn't live up to it at first, but I mean, beating Eblen, who we've been pretty high on in the MMA fighting rankings, like that's a big deal. So yeah, I'd love to see that up there. But with submission, again, there is always a lot of quite a bit of variance usually. And again, like I said, sometimes people will favor those crazy exotic submissions like Medeiros that happen on the regional scene. So I understand. Would I put that over such an impactful moment? I would not personally. So yes, I am a little surprised, Mike. I also wanted to, oh my gosh, what was it that I wanted to mention? wow, it was in my brain and it just totally went out the window. I will pass it on to you.
Okay.
Back to you, Mike. Yeah, I totally forgot. I had some last point I wanted to make about
We'll get
CSS.
there.
Totally forgot. We'll get there.
I have a feeling we'll get there, but just going back and sort of looking at the graphic, Walter Walker's versus legs.
Yeah.
Walter Walker's trio of heel hooks
Great
comes in
bit.
at number 2. Terrific. John Silva choking the life out of Bryce Mitchell at number 3. Sean Brady subbing former champion Leon Edwards in the main event of UFC London. Took that fight on short notice, comes in at number 4. We mentioned the tie for 5th. And Jed, you had 2 submissions as honorable mentions, and I want to give you the floor to shout those out because, again, sometimes you go off. If there's one award we go off the board on, it's this one, and you had 2 of them. Jose also had 2, but they were both UFC submissions. You had 2 that were a little outside the norm. Care to shout those out?
Yeah, they're awesome. Submission of the year is always the category where you can have the most sort of variety because the truth is the regional scene is open to more weird stuff happening. Like, I don't really know how else to put it that way. Even though one of these isn't actually regional, it's PFL. And it's hard to be like the best KO of the year was a flying scissor ninja kick. But it's a little easier to be like, I've never seen the Pila Johnson knee bar. Literally never seen that happen in competition. That's like a nonsense gym move. And so it's like, yeah, I'm going to put that on. And these other 2, I feel that way about. The Badardine Yoshida fight, that is, hold on, I've got it up here. That was a Gladiator in January. It's a leg scissor. If you don't know what a leg scissor is, it's a leg scissor. You choke somebody out with your legs around their neck, like a rear naked choke with your legs, essentially. It is a cartoon thing, and if there's a leg scissor, I'm going to put it in my list. That's just going to happen, and so I felt very happy putting that there. And then Hadley Matos was at a PFL, and it was a Scottish twister. And what a strange world we are in, boys and girls, where I am the only person voting for a twister. I've been voting long enough to be like, oh my God, someone landed a twister. And this wasn't a twister at Gladiator. This wasn't a twister at Rumble on the Rock or like Octagon, not even the good Octagon, the other Octagon. This was a twister in the PFL, and people are just like, whatever. Let's go with he choked out Bryce Mitchell. Like, that's nonsense. Yeah, that was aesthetically cool, but like, he got ninja choked, man. This is a twister in a real fight. So I feel confident with my list, frankly.
Yeah, Jed, but have you ever seen Juliet Pena get submitted by Kayla Harrison? I mean,
yeah, obviously that's by far the most egregious inclusion here. And yeah, if that wasn't number 1, that at least though was meaningful. Like John Silva tapping Bryce Mitchell wasn't meaningful. It was just like, oh, we all were happy that filled the Schadenfreude need, but that's not like remotely in my top 10 list of reasons I would put something on a list.
I mean, for me, I had that in my top 3 because of like the build to it, everything about that whole John Silva, Bryce Mitchell thing. It lasted for months.
It's and then it culminated with
that moment. No, I know.
Leg scissor.
It was sick. I actually forgot the Jake Hadley thing happened until I saw the graphic. Honestly, I was like,
this is the world we live in.
Yeah. PFL had its moment, Mike. Jed, PFL had its moment. Okay, it had its moment. It got number 1.
I love Jed's list, by the way. I really like Jed's list. On the reverse, AK, you had all 5. You were the only one to have 5 in your top 5.
I know what the people want.
Yeah, I mean, but you only get 5 votes, and all 5 of your votes were in the top.
And the 5. One you missed was Harrison Pena. So if you were gonna miss one, that's the one in my opinion.
Yeah. The only reason I had Harrison Pena as my number 5 was because going back and rewatching it, I still don't know how it happened. Like, it just came out of nowhere. We're like, all right, we're going to the next round. We're just like, oh shit, it's over. That was the quickest thing I've ever seen. Anything you want to point out about your top 5, AK?
I just remembered what I was going to say before.
Okay.
I know before because we talk about sometimes. Oh, I can't believe this wasn't unanimous number 1. I am responsible for maybe the most controversial non-unanimous number 1 in MMA fighting history. I think this was my first year with the site. We had a much larger staff back then. So just looking back, this is 2017. Mike, you brought up the Mighty Whiz Bar, considered by many to be maybe the greatest submission of all time, and certainly the wide consensus number one submission of that year. I didn't think so.
Okay, I didn't realize this. That is in fact the worst take anyone's ever had.
Listen, we had a hold on. First of all, this is crazy. We had a 15-person. So this makes it even more egregious because we had a 15-person panel back then. So even greater chance that like someone could go off board. But no, 14 of the 15. Number one. This is including great people like Esther Lynn was on this ballot. Dave Meltzer, guys, remember Dave Meltzer was with us. Mark Raimondi, Luke Thomas was on this ballot. And the man who has never forgiven me for not giving a number one vote, Shaheen Al-Shadi. He was not happy in the moment. And to this day is like,
dude, this is such a bad ballot from you.
Listen, that Brett Johns calf slicer, that's how memorable it was. I almost forgot what it was. That Brett Johns calf slicer was a thing of beauty. Calf slicers rule arm bars or whatever. So I'm just going back. I'm just saying that I'm not apologized. I will not apologize. I stand by it. Brett Johns, Juan Soto. Juan Soto? Who was it even on?
Juan Soto's a baseball player.
Well, I'm just saying Brett Johns might have capsulated him in his day. Joe Soto.
Joe Soto. Yes.
Excuse me, Joe Soto.
That's what we're looking for.
This is a great submission.
This is wild. I mean, just a wild take. And there is a part of me that is slightly disappointed. And there is a part of me that when Jed said this is the worst take of all time, I actually thought it might be. But I will give you a little bit of grace here, AK, because at least the right fighter won.
Yes.
And he did have it as number 2. I will say AK did.
Okay. You put
it as number 2.
Okay. I mean, it was okay. It was a distant second, but it made my ballot. Like,
but yes, it was number 2, but it's still a bad take.
Look it up. Brett Johns, not Juan Soto, Joe Soto.
You know what you don't have to look up?
Look it up.
You don't have to look up Demetrius Johnson throwing a man in the air and going for
the so-called MMA media is trying to teach you how to tell you, you have to vote this number one. No, guys, I have my own opinions about things, okay? I have my own opinions, as do many people on this staff, as you will see.
As you'll see.
I was doing a bit of looking into some past things as well. We should also throw out that as bad as that is, and I do believe it's worse, arguably Casey was worse last year. Casey did not even rank Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker, which was otherwise our unanimous number 1. Didn't even have it in his top 5. He chose Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier, which was our number 2. But yeah, so that's arguably worse because he didn't even rank it. But I think yours is worse.
Stand by. I'll never apologize.
Casey might be the bronze medalist of this conversation. I actually had I had Fluffy Hernandez at number 2 because it was such a humiliating choke from Fluffy against Roman Dolidze. And I was trying to I was at a family party on Saturday, and my nephew was talking to me about fighting. He just got into the sport the last couple of years. And, he watches the pay-per-views and stuff like that. He doesn't watch every Apex card. And I'm like, did you see the Fluffy Hernandez-Roman Dolidze fight? And he goes, no. I'm like, that is your homework. Because not only did that fight end in the most bullish way, the words I actually used to describe this fight to him was the closest thing to legalized torture I have ever seen in a fist fight. I've never seen a man who wanted to escape a cage so badly but couldn't. And Fluffy was just eating his food and enjoying every morsel, and then decided at one point, all right, I'm full, and I'm just going to end this and just throw the plate out the freaking window. That submission stood out to me so much because of the humiliation that he gave to one man. It was just unbelievable, and he could have done that at any point in the fight. He just chose one moment to do it. Rest of the honorable mentions, Rob DeWallis really tapping Sean O'Malley at UFC 316 to retain the bantamweight title. Pretty good year for submissions, no doubt about it. And this is just a pretty fun list. We sort of touched on everything else that happened, and submissions are always fun. Jed?
I had 2 things here. First, I am really happy that Pilla Johnson made it on. I didn't know if it would, because while I am often extremely willing, as you can see from the ballot, to put regional stuff, a lot of it. Usually I feel in the many years of doing this, most people save like one spot for something kooky, and they're trying sort of go middle of the road for a lot of the rest of their picks. And so like maybe Pilla Johnson isn't the kooky one that gets in. It obviously was this year, and I'm glad. I think that is unique and cool, right? Like it was my number 2 because I've literally never seen that happen in an actual fist fight. But the other thing, we just gave this short shrift, and I think we mentioned it, but acknowledging what Walter Walker is doing is pretty insane. And we had a brief discussion about it before the votes of like, can we just put Mike? I think you first said it as like a throwaway joke on air. And we're like, I might just put Walter Walker for 3 heel hooks. And they're like, honestly, why not? Because it's now 4 in a row, even though 1 was last year, right? But like 3 heel hooks in 1 year this is a statistical anomaly. That's the type of question that will come on prop quiz one day, a decade into the future. How many heel hooks in a row did Walter Walker get? And it's just a really cool thing. And I'm glad that we gave it its spot. And I didn't want us to breeze past it because it felt like maybe we were with so many other things to talk about.
And I think this sets a good precedent too, because let's say in the future, let's say someone gets 2 spinning, roundhouse kick knockouts in the same year, and we're like, oh well, we can't pick one. We're like, you know what, so and so versus physics, like that will be our right. Yeah. That will be, and we'll look at so. This is our first time doing this, I'm pretty sure, and I don't think the last time. I think this is something we should consider going forward.
It's definitely the first time we've done it specifically. I will be transparent. There have been other years where I have graded one performance maybe a little better because of other performances that year. But others should do, like the Oscars should do this. Screw giving out a best actor for one movie. Give out best actor for the slate you produced in 2025. Let's see how it goes then. I'm all on board with this new methodology.
I think there is some. I think like Screen Actors Guild Awards.
One of the awards does it, and it might be
smart.
SAG.
Yeah, which is smart. There, that is a smart thing. I want to add in. I'm glad Brady versus Edwards made the list. It's kind of weird because if you look at it, it's the only one of our top 4. It didn't get higher than 4th on anyone's ballot. So I guess it landed technically in the perfect spot, but it was not, it didn't, no one put it in their top 3. No one was like, oh my gosh, it looks like it had to be included. It was probably borderline for a lot of us, but I feel like it's going to be forgotten because of what happened after with Brady, and now he's probably out of the contender line for a while because of how welterweight has moved along. But like, that was a real moment for him. Like that was a real moment for Sean Brady. Also a real, on the other side, kind of a real moment for Leon Edwards, right? It almost feels like that's like the beginning of the end for him, even though because then he had another loss after. So I'm glad Brady gets a shine. I hope people look back on this someday and be like, oh, crazy. He was the first guy ever to submit Leon Edwards. Why do we not talk about this guy more? And it's like, yeah, listen, it happens. He may never fight for a title. Maybe he's not one of the top 3. It was never one of the top 3 or 4 welterweights in the world. I don't know. You could say he was after this win. But he deserves his flowers. He deserves his flowers, and I feel like the Brady run he was on there is going to get forgotten.
That's a great point. I think if there was a performance of the year category, it's a strong argument that he's in the top 5.
Yes, he certainly has a compelling case for something like that.
Yeah, it was a great submission, great performance from Sean Brady. But guys, we're about to pour some out for the Rookie of the Year category, because the Breakthrough Fighter of the Year category could not be more back. In fact, it's returning for the first time since 2020, for the first time since Khamzat Chimaev won the award over Kevin Holland, and people lost their damn minds. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 5 years, let's check out the nominees for MMA Fighting's Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Waldo Cortez Acosta, Joshua Van, Thad G, Walter Walker, Kevin Vallejos. All right, and the 2025 Breakthrough Fighter of the Year for MMAfighting.com is the brand new UFC flyweight champion, Joshua Van. Congratulations to Josh Van. From unranked to world champion, the fearless one gets it done. And let's pull up the bracket for everybody to see. 4 first place votes for Josh Van, 2 first place votes for our second place vote getter, Salsa Boy himself, the MVP of the MMA Fantasy League, Waldo Cortez Acosta. One of those votes was mine. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. I had Van at second. Guy leaves Josh Van off altogether, which is surprising. And
one
that's
of the
not even
takes of the year.
and that is not even the contentious thing I've been teasing throughout this. But if it was, I think people wouldn't be surprised because, again, this choice did not cost Josh Van the award, but it almost did because Damon is the only one not putting Waldo Cortez Acosta on the list, which is absolutely wild to me. I'm actually a little fired up about that one, Jed. I can't lie. I didn't think I will be. I didn't think I would be this mad about it.
It's Damon's list isn't very good. God love Chris Duncan.
How is Waldo Cortez Acosta not in the top 2?
I can't. Chris Duncan probably shouldn't be in the top 10, much less the top 5.
Can we talk about Mike, you mentioned this is us bringing back this award.
Yes.
I believe it was Shaheen Al-Shadi once upon a time who wanted to get rid of the award. I just blame everything on Shaheen.
I'm pretty sure you are correct on this, actually.
Because I think the problem was the criteria is a little murky. It is a little murky. We started going with rookie, which was just, a fighter to make a, literally fight for the first time in a major promotion. Usually we were talking about UFC or Bellator, and I think later PFL. But the results there started getting kind of, with respect to the winners, not interesting. I point to, and I'm sure there's other examples. We had one year where Casey O'Neill won. Casey O'Neill, great rookie year. I don't want to take away from what Casey O'Neill did. I know she's kind of fallen out of the spotlight. Obviously, there's a loss there, some injury problems. She was a very good choice for rookie of the year. But I remember picking her and just being like, when you're talking about year-end storylines, I remember her winning that award and just being like, this is not, I like Casey O'Neill. That was not one of the storylines of 2025 for me. You know what I mean? So I felt like rookie is not representing what these awards are supposed to be, which is supposed to be some sort of summary, some sort of, picking the biggest moments of a certain year, right? And I just felt rookie would stop hitting that. So I said, let's go back to the broader breakthrough. And unfortunately, the reason, it was kind of blue in the first place is we could never fully agree, I think, always on what it meant to be a breakthrough, which is why there's that Khamzat Kevin Holland controversy. Because I think Kevin Holland was a genuine rookie that year, right? That was the year that Khamzat won. It was Kevin Holland's UFC debut year. Is that why there was
no? That was his 4-0 year. That was when he was up for.
I see.
Yeah.
But again, people liked him. People knew of him. But that year, because of something Jed and I talk about all the time, you become a star in the sport by fighting a lot. And Kevin fought a lot that year. Yeah. But people knew who Kevin was. Yep. No one outside of Kaposa and Mr. and Mrs. Shemaev had any idea who Khamzat Shemaev was until he walked onto Fight Island and went bananas.
That take aged well. That take has aged well.
I'd say not only did that age well, AK, you and I are the geniuses. Mike, I believe you actually gave it to Holland that year. So
and that's okay.
Mike also had Khamzat as number 2.
Okay.
That take aged super well.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got rid of rookie. I was against rookie from the beginning. And there's also perhaps a part where I'm to blame for rookie happening anyway, because in 2021, I believe me and Shaheen had I won't say a heated argument, but a prolonged argument where I genuinely was arguing for Kamaru Usman to win breakout fighter of 2021 because he went from being a champion no one cared about to, is he the greatest fighter of all time? And that was probably wrong of me. But then we went to rookie and immediately was Casey O'Neill. And we were like, this might not have been a great call. I will say, in Rookie of the Year's defense, it's been pretty good since then, right? Our 2022 AK, your boy, Jailton Almeida. 2023, Diego Lopez. Last year, Carlos Prates. So, Rookie had been doing these feel like meaningful fighters, but I just think Rookie of the Year sounds very silly because it's who did their UFC debut, whereas the storylines are better. And frankly, Carlos Prates probably would have just been breakout fighter of the year last year as well. And so I like what we've gotten, and I really like it because I think Josh Van, to bring this back to the topic at hand, is sort of the perfect vessel for this, right? Because I know Mike's going to defend his pick to put Waldo Cortez Acosta over, and it's not an awful choice. He's my number 2 call. But like Josh Van would not have been eligible for Rookie of the Year this year. And because of how things ended up, probably not going to win Fighter of the Year, right? But this was a remarkable year from a guy who started January unranked. Yes, he was a young prospect, and I think most of us, if asked, would have said, that guy's going to fight for a belt one day. But he went from, he's going to fight for a belt one day to, okay, he gets a win. Then he fights the number 12 ranked dude in June. And like, okay, he gets that. And then suddenly, short notice, number 1 contender beats him in our fight of the year. Boom. Flyweight champion at the end of the world. Yes, it came under a bit of weird circumstances, but still, he went from unranked to champion in 12 months' time. That's the definition of breaking out. And so I'm glad we brought this back, because otherwise, like, we picking Bisengerst or Sakayev, like, that's not nearly as fun.
It's
a good question.
Yeah, because I didn't even think about it.
I have no idea. I can't remember who debuted.
I think it's honestly, it's honestly like the 2 people tied for 6th in this award.
Alexia Tainara.
It's Tainara or Jimmy Suss, more than likely.
And I love Tainara, but people would just see that and be like, "What the?"
So, huh? It would be based on our ranking. It would be Kevin Vallejos, because he is the top ranked guy who made his debut this year.
Oh, he did.
And so that's probably true, and that's not even bad, because I think Vallejos has a huge future ahead of him. But like, it's better that it's Josh Van. Like this, it just is better for what we are trying to, the points, the vibes, the energy we're trying to get across. This was Josh Van's breakout year, and it should be celebrated as such.
Yeah, our whole top 3, I think, needs to be like recognized, because none of these guys debuted this year, but they clearly raised themselves to another level of notoriety and success. Like Waldo, even with the loss to Sergey, no one even talks about that anymore. I think most people think like he went undefeated in 2025, but like that loss to Sergey was not long ago. It's just he got back in the cage and did the damn thing, and we've kind of moved on from it. I mean, Sergey is ranked higher than him for sure, but who's the more well-known popular fighter right now? It's Waldo Cortez Acosta by a mile. Like it is not close. I don't know if Sergey has fought since then, right? I think Sergey is just, he got that win and, you know, is able to sit on it. Yeah, he has not fought since and not long ago, August. But Waldo's been in there. And Walter, you have to talk about it. I mean, just becoming the heel hook master, getting a great gimmick. So I think we did it right. Like Kevin Vallejos is the Rookie of the Year, but I think you need to make a list that acknowledges. Like if you want to do a separate list, that's a whole thing. But if you're putting them all together, you would have to put these 3 guys above him, as far as if we're just talking about breakthrough, breakout, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I love that we went back to it.
Mike, I had a take, but I don't want to step on what I think might be your take. And if, because you do need to explain why you went WCA over Josh Van, because it's not as bad as Jeremy going thing, but give the viewers your reasoning for why you felt Waldo Cortez Acosta deserves this over unranked to champion flyweight journey of Josh Van.
Okay. So, I mean, there are a number of factors that went into this. Number 1, we have to remember, and I actually didn't even 100% realize this until I cast my final vote. The last time Waldo Cortez Acosta competed before this year was the Rebellious to Spain fight. And that was the one everybody ripped him to shreds for, because it was not fun. It was a guy going out and trying to get a win, but it was against like the dude who, because at heavyweight, we're looking for fun fighters, and Waldo just wasn't really that fun. And that performance made him just seem like, well, he's just another kind of boring heavyweight. So the way people viewed him heading into 2025 was a big part of it. Josh Van heading into 2025, yes, he may have lost to Charles Johnson along the way, but there wasn't a single human being on planet Earth who looked at Josh Van and said, that guy is not going to be a champion. Everybody said that. Most fans knew who this guy was. And I don't think people could say the same for Waldo Cortez Acosta. So to me, Josh broke through, like he had already broken through, but the year he had because of what he accomplished this year, I couldn't leave him off the list altogether. So I put him at number 2, and I think he 100% deserves that. But if we're talking about, to me, unranked to champion is big. But when people expect you to be champion, it takes you down just a slight notch. From unranked and unknown and uncareable about to now like one of the more popular fighters on the roster, about to get a huge fight with Derek Lewis at UFC 324 that could lead him to a championship opportunity. A guy that 99% of the MMA community like could not stand, like led to groans every time this guy fought. The way he ended the year, and if he didn't do the Shamil Gadzhiev thing, I don't even think he probably is number 5, but he's certainly not number 1. But the Shamil Gadzhiev thing, stepping in, flying across the world on 3 days notice, and then still attempting to do the gimmick of fighting 6 times and fighting December 13th, which is absolutely bananas. The UFC did not give him that opportunity, and then still go fight Derek Lewis. To me, this is a breakout year. This is the breakout year. But I wanted to give Josh Van his flowers for accomplishing what he accomplished. But to me, he had already sort of broken out. He just ran through a damn wall here, Jed.
It's the age-old question of, is a breakout more impressive if you don't see it coming? Because nobody would have predicted. To AK's previous question, how many guesses would it have taken to at the end of 2024 to get to, Josh Van? Probably not 1,000 guesses before I'm like,
10.
Josh Van is going to break out. How many to get to Waldo Cortez Acosta? Would have been a lot of them.
I probably would
a lot of them.
Trust me, go back to that post-fight show after the Rebellis to Spade fight. Trust me
Buddy,
when I
I
tell
recall,
you.
We were all upset. Nobody was happy.
And it would have been, I would have picked out Costello Von Steenis for submission of the year way sooner than Waldo Cortez Acosta for breakthrough fighter of the year.
And that was
now
the take I was gonna be like, do you guys realize the last time WCA fought? But I figured you probably would have it, and you did. So, well done.
I mean, please.
Can I just point out how wide? I just want to say how wide our criteria was here again. Just for anyone looking at the list, like I know we should put it up a few times. They're probably still scratching their heads, kind of like, well, why does this person count and why does this person not count? Again, I will say we did not have like a sit down to like reevaluate our breakthrough criteria. So yeah, we kind of we trusted each other, which again, as you'll see later in the show, was a mistake.
That was unfounded.
But overall, I'm okay. I'm okay with where these things went. But Mike and I mean, we almost had Yana Santos on the ballot because Mike and I had a very heated argument about whether he wanted to put Yana Santos to be included on the short list.
I love that AK is taking it.
Yes, no. I mean, it's not on there. He eventually did not put her on vote for it, which makes me almost more angry. We really went. I think I called Mike an F-word, B-word at one point.
But hold on a second. Hold on.
Yes.
The only reason I was going to put her on a list was because the way this breakthrough fighter was explained to me initially when we were going to bring it back was we were going to do 2 separate awards. We were going to do a male and a female. And Yana, while she had fought for a belt, I mean, literally throughout her entire career, through multiple last names, nobody cared at all until Macy Chiasson missed weight and she put out that tweet and everyone went bananas for it. And then she went out and beat Macy Chiasson. And Joseph Boza cried himself to sleep because Macy was out of the title picture, but still believed she was a win away because she missed weight, and technically it wasn't a bantamweight fight. So that take has since got away. So she is a hero in that regard. But that was the most anybody has cared about Yana Santos ever, like literally ever. So to me, like if we were doing a top 5 women's breakout fighter, because women's MMA is in a pretty tough spot. Yana actually did some stuff and won some fights and she's on a nice run and people started to care a little bit. So I would have put her at number 5. She certainly wouldn't have won, but she wasn't making once I found out we were combining lists, I was like, yeah, there's no chance she's getting on this list.
I'm just saying, AK, when I chastised you about not including Ayman Zahabi, I at least had the dignity to vote for Ayman Zahabi.
Okay, I did not know.
I love this. By the way, I love this. I'm glad you brought this up because just kind of rounding things out. This is very close. It was a 1-2 race. Josh Van, anyone who didn't have Josh Van and or Waldo Cortez Acosta is just wrong. I love Guillermo Cruz.
Those are very clear.
Are we calling out
terrifically wrong?
Damon
not having Waldo on this list is bananas to me. Like it's just truly bananas. Those are like two automatics that absolutely have to be on this list. Like there's just no way around it. Josh Van and or I didn't like. Again, I already thought Josh Van broke through, but I would have been a complete prick if I didn't put Josh on this list, let alone not putting him in the top 2. So to not have him there at all is absolutely insane. But it was those two the only ones in the 40s. Walker had 27, Vallejos had 22. Thad Jean, the lone PFL representative, at least in the top 5, comes in at number 5, coming in at 6 points. 6 points behind at number 6. It was a tie, as we mentioned before. Alexia Tainara, AK and I both voted for her. From short notice debut, ruined my fantasy that season single-handedly by retiring Molly McCann, who had a minus 1,200 fight in front of her. She is now a ranked fighter. She is a ranked fighter in just 2 fights. I think she impressed the hell out of me, AK, this year, and she is someone that is completely on my radar. I'm getting Natty Ice vibes in terms of like her ceiling. That's how impressed I was with her this year. And then we had Jimmy Suss, Beinzinger, Shakayev, also had 11 points, tied with Tainara, and the rest of the honorable mentions. We have, let me pull this up, Chris Duncan, Michael Morales, PFL Grand Prix winner, Marcirli Alves, and Melchizedek Costa gets a 6-pointer. That's because of me. And then Jed, I mean, I really love this from you. Your number 5, Ayman Zahabi, spectacular pick. You dropped this on me during BTL, I believe, and I was like, wow, this is so damn good. Talk about your Ayman Zahabi pick. How did you come with it? What was the reactions when you told AK and everybody else? Just a terrific pick.
AK was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, like he might be the breakout fighter of the year. And AK was like, why? And I did at least vote for him because there was a time where I was like, I don't know, maybe he's not going to be over Josh Van. He's probably not going to be over Waldo Cortez Acosta. But like in the same manner of how you sort of broke down WCA's run, right? Like Ayman Zahabi only had 2 wins this year. There's big a wins as you can have for 2 wins in the middle of a ranking. Like Ayman Zahabi's entire career, he has been, oh, you're the brother of Faraz and you kind of fight some. Like that's it. Like AK, you can speak to this more freely than I can, but in my head, and I think in the head of most people, Mike Malott is the great hope for Canadian MMA. Like maybe Yasmin Yazdavicic. Ayman Zahabi is quietly like actually the best Canadian fighter in the world. And he's not. He's terrible. I will go to my grave thinking he can't fight. But it doesn't matter what I think. It's what he has proven in the cage. And, you know, he got 2 mega wins this year to go from Faraz's brother who fights and whatever to you might be 1 win away from a title fight. Like you're the best Canadian fighter alive. Like that feels like the textbook definition to me of like breaking out from ignominy to something substantive, even if I still don't think he can fight.
Incredible defense of your
so good. So good. You said it. I'm like, it makes so much sense. Like that's the same Yana Santos thing where it's just like she's fought a whole bunch, but like nobody knew.
The same as Yana Santos. Honestly.
Guys, yeah. Yana Santos has fought for a UFC title. She was, I think, top 10 going into 2025. And I would argue people honestly still don't care about her that much. So that was my beef with the Yana Santos thing. But the
people, let me tell you,
makes sense.
People do care about Ayman Zahabi. I know this because when I say he's not good at fighting, people let me know that I'm wrong. And I counter by tell me what he's good at. And they say stuff. When people say that, you know, their answer is always stuff like in the NFL draft when you can't say a quarterback's bad. So you're just like, he's a leader. He's got intangibles. He's a winner, coachable. I'm like, okay, so he's not good at anything. He just wins. And that's a credit to him. Arguably, Forrest Griffin wasn't good at shit and he became a champion, like it's a credit to be not good and to be as successful. So that's also my mea culpa to the many Eamon Zahabi fans, to all the Canadians for disrespecting your boy. I legitimately believe he's had one of the 5 breakout years, campaigns of the year. Can we talk about the worst choice on this ballot? And it's not even Guy leaving Josh Van Offit.
Damon and Waldo Cortez Acosta.
It's not Damon. I mean, it is to some extent. I just want to see if y'all can do this. Can y'all tell me how many fights Chris Duncan has had this year?
3 or 2? 3?
Which one?
I'll say 3.
It is 3. Can you tell me who they were over?
Terrence McKinney. I mean, that's
that happened a week ago.
Matusz Rebecki.
That was a good fight.
That was an incredible fight.
It's a great fight.
God, who was the first one?
You're never going to get it. I could have never ever pulled it. Jordan Vucinic.
Oh, I would never got that.
Yeah, that's a rock solid year, and Chris Duncan is absolutely in play for an all violence team. But the number 2 breakout fighter of the year is a fighter who there's another guy named Chris Duncan on roster. Come on, what are we doing here? It's a ridiculous take that he's the number 2 breakout fighter of the year.
I'll defend it a little bit. Again, would not have made my list.
Number 2.
Yes, I was checking to see did he manage to make it to the rankings. He's not top 15 in the UFC, but I will say lightweight, of course, is one of the more difficult top 15s to break into. So if you want to argue Chris Duncan's top 25, and
hell of a breakout going from unranked to unranked.
Well, I would say went from outside the top 25 into the top 25 of the deepest division MMA, right? I think that again, and we talk about the UFC rankings all the time. What do they even mean, right? Different making top 15 of light heavyweight is not the same as making it's not the same as making top 15 of lightweight, right? It's difficult. So I would have liked to have seen Duncan at least beat a top 20 guy. I wouldn't put McKinney in there. I probably wouldn't put Rebecki in there. But we should remember with the Vucinic win, obviously not a guy who's top 20 in the UFC right now. He was a huge underdog in that fight. He was actually a really, really big underdog because Vucinic was getting a lot of that Mike's favorite thing, the Cage Warriors rub. This guy's from Cage Warriors was a killer. He's a killer in Cage Warriors. He's going to come in and immediately.
That's why I faded him.
That's why you faded him big time, and you were right. So we have to, maybe the win hasn't aged well. I think Vucinic already got released, right? Or won, or
he fought again and lost, didn't he?
Yeah, he's already back in Cage Warriors, and I like Jordan Vucinic. I actually think he's a really good fighter, but at the time, he was viewed as even more. So I'll give him credit for that. The fight of the year candidate with Rebecki was great. McKinney, I guess, is take it or leave it, right? Because we know McKinney is the ultimate glass cannon. He's finishing you, or you're finishing him. But I'll defend it. I do think 2 is way too high. I think if he had him, on his list, 5th. Yeah, but
5 would be fine. 5 would be fine, AK. But do you know another fighter who fought 3 times, had 2 finishes, won 1 bonus, and actually did go from unranked to in the rankings in a very good weight class, no less? Kevin Vallejos, who he doesn't rank. Kevin Vallejos beat Giga Chikadze, which is at least as good as Terrence McKinney, if not much better. Chris, this is not to disrespect Chris Duncan, who, like I said, had a good year.
Great year.
And I think is going to be either first or second team all violence at lightweight. He had a great year. Putting him not including Waldo Cortez Acosta, but including Walter Walker is a choice, because I'm okay, maybe he's doing the Casey thing where he's just heavyweights don't count. Never mind, he put Walter Walker in there, so that's not it. It requires a very narrow window to get there, and I can't figure out how we got to Chris Duncan as the second biggest breakout fighter of 2025.
Yeah, I didn't have Kevin on the list. It was between him and I went with Melky Costa. 4-0, and I think Costa's wins were just so good.
They were all
great. They were all excellent wins. Feely finished him. Christian Rodriguez, good win. Julian Arosa, good win. And then he highlight reeled Morgan Charrier, who is a pretty good fighter. And I know, Jed, that hurts to hear me say that.
I didn't care at that point.
Yeah, he was already out
I
of
was
the
already
fantasy
dead.
conversation, but just 4-0.
And it
Like
was
I didn't
really
even
cool.
Yeah, it was sick.
It was really cool.
So I put him over Vallejos because like that to me was just like hearing the UFC broadcast that night say that's his 4th win of 2025. I was like, what? I didn't even know that. So to me, it was like a no-brainer, especially like going back and seeing the wins that he got. It was a hell of a year for him. And Kevin's right there. And again, Kevin is, to me, he broke out on Contender Series. And again, we look at a guy, that's a dude who we're like, okay, that dude's going to fight for a belt someday, or at least he's going to get damn close. And when they booked Giga Chikadze, I was just like, all right, he's going to thump up Giga, and the torch is going to be passed, because I never thought Giga was a top 15 featherweight to begin with. But great win, and he deserves he deserves spots and votes for this list as well. So, but yeah, the Duncan one's a little weird.
I have trashed Damon, and more is to come. I would like to throw Damon an olive branch here, because I was surprised, didn't make my list because I had to put Damon Zahabi for the sake of my honor. But I think arguably the fighter who suffered the most in our transition from breakthrough or back to breakthrough from Rookie of the Year is a guy who, if we were just looking at Rookie of the Year, maybe would have had a really good chance at it, right? Like I would have voted Kevin Vallejos for certainly, and I think others would have as well. But Quillen Salkild, who Damon ranked as his number 4 of the year, I mean 3-0, one of the better knockouts of the year against Nasrat Haqparast, like that. He broke out in a lot of a way, but if he was just being considered Rookie of the Year, I think he's almost certainly in a top 5 ballot.
Sure,
and
for sure.
So he might have been the biggest sufferer of the shift back to breakthrough.
Completely agree.
Yep.
So
yep,
yeah,
great shot. That's good. Good job, Damon. Good job getting him on there, because I'm just looking back. I totally forgot.
He was my number 6.
Yeah,
it was between him and Eamon. And then I was like, I told AK he has to put Eamon here, and I think I probably need to do that.
You bumped Quillen Salkild for your favorite fighter, Eamon Zahabi. Well, thank you for putting a Canadian on there. We appreciate it.
I love that.
Eamon, he's the best Canadian fighter, the best active Canadian fighter.
Thank you very much.
Folks, we're heading to the knockout of the year next. And then after that, oh boy, we're really going to get into this thing. But that there's no doubt about it. Don't go anywhere. But bodies hit the floor, ladies and gentlemen, from punches and kicks. And a whole bunch of spinning stuff throughout 2025. A lot of great finishes from the striking martial arts. So now it is time to crown the winner of the 2025 Knockout of the Year. And here are the nominees. Sergio Pettis over Magomed Magomedov at PFL Dubai. Ilia Topuria over Charles Oliveira at UFC 317. Mauricio Ruffi over King Green at UFC 313. Lerone Murphy over Aaron Pico at UFC 319. Quillen Salkild over Nasrat Haqparast at UFC 321. Lots of great knockouts, lots of them, but there can only be one. The 2025 MMA Fighting Knockout of the Year winner is, by 1 freaking point, just 1 point, Mauricio Ruffi over King Green, UFC 313 in March. Spinning heel kick, nasty stuff. They call him One Shot for a reason, and boom, KO of the year. Let us pull up the graphic here, pull up the tabulation. Coming in at number 2 by 1 point, as I said, Lerone Murphy, spinning back elbow of Aaron Pico at UFC 319. Ilia Topuria's lightweight championship winning KO at UFC 317 comes in at number 3. Sergio Pettis and his spinning elbow of Magomed Magomedov comes in at number 4. And the aforementioned Quillen Salkild in at number 5 with his nasty head kick of Nasrat Haqparast at UFC 321 in October. AK, Ruffi gets the win. He was your number 1 vote getter, but you impacted this thing in another way. Yes, you had Lerone Murphy's knockout in your top 5, but everybody else on the voting panel had Murphy's knockout at number 1 or number 2. You had it at number 5, and had you put this anywhere else on your voting tabulation list, Lerone Murphy would be the 2025 Knockout of the Year winner. So this is all your fault. Do you want to apologize to Lerone Murphy? No, I'm just kidding. But no, I joke. But why was Rookie?
He's the only guy who got all 5 right.
listen.
No, but why was Murphy number 1 and why was Murphy number 5?
I'm a man of integrity. First of all, let me say this, and I don't want people to think that because I am the one who quarterbacks these things, I do the math, that I had I did not intentionally do this. Like I didn't tabulate and go oh, well, I want my pick to be number 1. If I and I didn't have originally have Murphy Pico 2 and then move it down to 5th, knowing that it would be, I did not do that. I wish I had. I think it would make you seem so much smarter, but this really is just how it turns out. I actually did not even realize that was my 5th place vote is what made it land just in that second spot, right in there. I think I'm probably not giving Murphy enough credit for knocking out Pico. Pico's kind of in that Terrence McKinney range, right, where he's a bit of a glass cannon, but that shouldn't take away from what Murphy did. The guy never knocks anyone out. I'm also probably, and it's not fair to him, I'm just probably just bummed out by the whole Lerone Murphy situation. This should have guaranteed him a title shot. We saw this knockout where the whole Lerone Murphy story is, what more does this man have to do? And then people would always say, well, he needs to get a finish. He needs to finish someone. Okay, well, you put him in there with a guy who it looks like a star from Bellator, a guy who, if he had won, very likely you were positioning him to get a title shot. Not only does Murphy beat him, he gets that huge knockout. And I guess I'm just frustrated that he's not getting the title shot. So I'm he's being penalized for reasons that are out of his control. This was also an impossible list just to make. There was so many amazing knockouts. I'm trying to think. I have to see who's not even on our honorable mention list, because I guarantee you there's some that's not even on the graphic that I could have put in the top 5. There was just some unbelievable KOs. Some of them I think I went for more meaningful. Why is Topuria Oliveira my number 2? Charles Oliveira is also a glass cannon. But I think just I think every Topuria knockout I think is just so compelling for various reasons, like the Volkanovski one, the Max Holloway one, now the Oliveira one. So it really just stuck with me. Sal killed. My God, that was one of the scariest knockouts. That was the scariest knockout of 2025. And Pettis, I just got to always show love to Sergio because this guy's just always doing crazy things in Bellator and PFL. And sadly, probably getting bonus points for the post elbow punch that may have ended Magomedov's career. I'm not even joking. That was horrible to watch. So those were my reasons why Murphy Pico was behind all of those. But no regrets. Now it's even funnier now that I see it.
To be clear, AK is saying that Sergio Pettis' spinning back elbow was better than the other ones that happened. It was the best of them this year.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. AK, I think your list is fine. You got all 5 of them.
It's a fine list. It's a fine list.
I want to say this is the outcome of all of our categories that shocked me.
I'm exactly the same.
I had no I knew what I was doing at sub of the year. I thought it'd be unanimous, but it still was what it was. I was really certain who was going to win breakout fighter of the year. Same thing happened. Fight of the year, it was not what I went with, but I thought that probably would end up carrying the day. Fighter of the year, which we're going to talk about after this, is who I thought was going to win it. This one didn't see it coming at all, and that is no disrespect to Mauricio Huffy and Maurice Green, or not Maurice Green. That would frankly be the knockout of the year. Spinning heel kick,
the crochet boss.
That would be incredible. King Green, but it happened so early in the year, and then Ruffy lost, and so it wasn't even it's an awesome, spectacular knockout. But in my head, I kind of was I didn't feel amazing about it because, as AK pointed out, Charles Oliveira had been knocked out before. It was such an aesthetic knockout. It was so pure and so meaningful and so good and significant. I was I thought Topuria Oliveira was going to be it. If you had, been like, hey, what do you think is going to win? I would have been I think Topuria Oliveira is going to end up taking it. It might be close, but it'll be that. And then it's number 3. It wasn't even competitive realistically with the top 2 runners. So this is the category that took me the most by surprise.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there because I guess I'm not fully surprised. I think the one thing, and I don't want to I'm not calling these 2 guys out. I'm just saying I was like, there's 3 knockouts here that are going to be on every single person's list, and it was the top 3 that we had. Topuria is going to be on the list.
Same guys. Keeps being the same guys.
I thought Topuria was going to win too, because at least typically over history with us, like it's not even the best knockout gets it, but when the stakes are high and there's significance behind it, it's like, even if it's not anywhere near being the best and most like overall memorable, I guess, like on the laundry list of knockouts, it's still going to win it because of what it meant. And the fact that Topuria finished 3rd is shocking to me. Like, I thought if it wasn't Topuria, Murphy was going to win, then it would be Topuria like out by a point, and then it would be Ruffy at 3 or something like that. But completely opposite of what we got here. And you and I, Jed, both had this Ilya knockout at number 1. Became a 2-division champion. And not only was this, to me, like the most memorable knockout of the year, it was the most impactful, like not just knockout, Jed.
It's the defining knockout of the year.
It's the most impactful. It's the defining moment of all of 2025 for the UFC, I think. Like, when I think back on 2025, the first thing I'm going to remember is Ilya Topuria knocking out Charles Oliveira, all the shit he talked along the way, everything that built up to that moment, the 2 belts, the rose, everything, all of it, which is why I gave him the top spot. It's the moment I remember more than anything else. For you personally, do you want to dive a little bit deeper as to why this was your number 1 and why the voting came out the way that it did for you overall?
It's for a lot of the same reasons. Even though I thought that this would happen, like I was very, very confident that Ilya was going to knock out Charles. I got less confident as the fight got closer. I was like, maybe Charles can make this fun. But like, he's Ilya Topuria. This is the moment. I hadn't thought about it until you just said it. This might be the moment I think of as the defining 2025 moment. Maybe not. And because the Ilya and Islam stories are just so intertwined, maybe it's some combination of both of them, but this is very clearly the most significant individual moment of the year, more so than the subs of the year, the knockouts. Like this was it of, hey, the guy that's the next Connor did the thing, and he did it in spectacular fashion. The UFC has been kind of shoving him down our throats, frankly, and we see why, because he can pay it off like this. And so, this is the one that I think it'll age the best, right? Like that the Ruffy Green will age in cool ways, in the same way that Edson Barbosa's knockout over Terry Edom like has aged. That's still awesome. Interestingly, not the MMA Fighting 2012 knockout of the year that year. You would never guess what it was. It's Kung Lee Rich Franklin. I wasn't on staff at that point. That was before my tenure, but like that aged well in that it's still cool, and the Ruffy Green will still be cool, but it's not significant, and the Ruffy Green will never be that significant. And it was to me that Oliveira, the aesthetics were, if it was like a lame TKO, okay, that's not as cool, but this was a sick knockout, perfect technique and aesthetic combination mixed with significance. And so that's why it's my number 1. I am, frankly, I know we've attacked Damon a couple of times here. I certainly have. I'm not even that mad that he left it off. I am really interested in why, though. Like, I would love if he could explain why. And it wouldn't have mattered if he put it on, it would still finish 3rd. So this isn't like I don't really care in that regard, but I would love an explanation for how that doesn't, at least, and frankly, same for Guy, like how that doesn't rate in the top 5 of the year, because it was very cool and incredibly significant. And like, as respectfully as I can say this, Kayla Harrison's win over Juliana Pena, if you're going to put that as a top 5 submission of the year, you're doing it out of the significance, not that was like an especially cool submission. So how does that not also translate here to Charles Oliveira getting sent to the shadow realm by the next great, like maybe the greatest fighter of this generation?
AK, you had Topuria number 2.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I'll just say, as Joe was saying, I had no idea actually what I was going to put number 1 as I went into this voting. I think in my mind, I the first knockout I think of was the Topuria Oliveira one, right? So that's why it was like I think it started at the top of the list and eventually got bumped down by Hoovy Green. It's you can't take away from Topuria Oliveira fight. It's just simply like I like the Roofy and Green one more. I just I don't know, it just looked so nice to me. I think I just put it on replay. I must have replayed it like 20 times. I was just looking it over and I'm like, man, that was really fun. That was a really cool knockout. And I understand the historical argument, and all I'll say is keep in mind my vote. This is the same guy who put Brett Johns over Joe Soto over the Mighty Whiz Bar. So I don't know if I even need to explain this pick because I think we kind of explained it with that little trip down memory lane earlier in the show. Like if you look at the logic there, well, I guess even not because people are like, "What are you talking about?" The Mighty Whiz Bar was not only significant but cooler than. We don't need to.
Literally has a very good argument to being the coolest submission in the history of
it's all right.
combat sports.
It was fine. I mean, for a guy like DJ who hasn't accomplished much in his career, I would say yes. If you want to put it up there just to like throw him a bone and say okay, finally did something. Like okay. Other than that, like what are we talking about? Like
this is a great bit. This is
Brett Johns,
unbelievable.
Brett Johns. Joe Soto. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, it was not a matter of like, oh, this
not Juan Soto.
Not Juan Soto. That's how memorable it was. It's not a matter of like, oh, the Topuria, like why this is worse than the Roofy Green knockout. It's just I think both are great. Notability, of course, you got to give to Topuria, but aesthetically pleasing, boy, I don't know. That was one of the sweetest spin kick knockouts I've seen. I think the higher levels of MMA.
Very cool.
And Bobby Green is not like a easy guy to KO. Got standing anyway. I'm trying to think. I mean, there was Judo Burr.
Jalen Turner hurt him real bad.
Yeah.
Oh, it has been happening in recent years. So maybe
it's happened more lately because he's gotten old and fallen.
Because he's old. He's not, yeah. I stand by it. But you can't go wrong with Topuria and Oliveira. I mean,
that's the thing. Yeah. I want to be clear about this. This shocks me. I have no issues with it. Like because it's undeniably cool. Very, very possibly the coolest thing the coolest knockout of the year, the most aesthetically pleasing one. I just did not see it coming. I had it ranked 3. I thought this was a Oliveira Murphy two horse race, and I got that all the way wrong. But that's why I like doing these things because I would have never guessed this. And like I said, I don't think it's wrong. It's just not what I thought was happening.
Yeah. Very surprising one.
I'm glad you and Guy put on what's the guy's name?
I was just gonna bring that up.
Shinkarevsky.
Yeah, what's the guy's first name? I'm so
Jaron.
Yes.
Jaron Lathrop coming in at number 6. Debut, honestly.
Crazy.
His pro debut, he's on the MMA Fighting Knockout of the Year list for the sick jumping spin kick.
If you haven't seen it,
XFC 52.
The article should include it, a link to it. Gerbaka Hitman on Twitter, Kaposa has a post.
Yeah.
It is the Joaquin Buckley ninja kick.
It is.
Not quite as good because the guy doesn't, die in the same fashion.
He doesn't timber fall like
And so that's why it was honestly that straight up just would have been my number 1. I don't care that it's a regional thing. If that had been a clean finish, easily the number 1 because he sort of tips over to the cage and then there's a follow-up. I docked it, but still that's some movie stuff. That had to make my top 5.
That's the kind of thing you only do though in your pro debut. Cause I think most people would say if
you're Joaquin Buckley,
do not throw you're not going to land it. It's just going to end up with you getting taken down. But man, if you land it, it's pretty good.
And it's the coolest thing you'll ever do in your whole, it's like, Mike knows this, AK. I don't think you do this. It's like you tee off and you slice it into the trees. You should not go for that 1-inch gap shot to play on. You should just take your medicine. That's not what Jerome Lathrop did. He did not take his medicine. He went for the hero shot and he was a hero.
Yes. I mean, you don't pay all that money to lay up out of the trees on the first.
We're here to have fun, and he had some fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. Pulling this back up, we have Juan Archuleta's flying knee knockout of Dennis Linton at Baroka 3 in June. That is tied with Yuri Prohashka's knockout of Khalil Roundtree at UFC 320. If you gave me 1,000 votes of who would tie Yuri Prohashka in the knockout category, I would not have said Juan Archuleta. Juan Archuleta's name would not have come up, but congratulations to him. Also, Randy Brown and Carlos Praches make the list for their knockouts of Nicholas Dalby and Jeff Neal, respectively. That's who rounds out the honorable mentions. And Lathrop's KO was sick. And Jed tied with your boy, Yuri Prochazka. Any chance you get the chance to wax poetically about Yuri Prochazka? I'm going to give it to you.
I was surprised Yuri wasn't on the top 5, but again, I don't even honestly disagree, right? Like the Saul killed KO was the most violent, scariest KO of the year. I frankly think I just gave the Pettis Magomedov knockout like less credit than it probably deserved. For me, the Yuri one, maybe he even got a touch of an extra boost because he also had the Jamal Hill performance, which was sick. I don't think people remember it because it's a Yuri fight and they're always fun and chaotic. Yuri Prochazka lost 10 minutes of this fight. Yuri Prochazka needed this knockout. And even though the second round was more competitive than the first, Khalil Roundtree was doing the things that people were praising him for against Alex Pereira, right? Like he was, oh, look, he's so technical with his Muay Thai and he just keeps kicking Yuri a bunch and he's getting his head off the center line and Yuri's head is right up there and this is going poorly. And then Yuri pushed the big red crazy button and nobody can withstand the big red crazy button other than Alex Pereira. He's the only fighter who can, because when Yuri was just decided he did not care and he drowned Khalil, not in like, I'm going to take you down and drown you Habib style. He just drowned him by advancing and hitting him as much as he possibly could. And Khalil's body just sort of surrendered to this big, crazy samurai. Like, I don't even know what to call Yuri at this point. I think that this knockout, especially the circumstances around it, because it's a violent knockout in its own right. And the camera pan to Khalil, who is like just face up, staring at the lights, conscious, but done, is pretty harsh because he had taken a lot at that point. It's an incredible comeback. And I wish it got a little more love, frankly, even though I can't disagree with the other calls. I do wish it just got a little bit more love though.
That would have been my number 6. Cause I remember like as you're like going crazy as you're going through the sequence. And then we were talking earlier about like the most fun I had watching a moment or a fight. It was that third round. If I go back to the watch party and just like rewatch that third round on the watch party, that's probably what I was glowing the most and just having like the absolute best time.
You're watching Khalil Roundtree, who, this is maybe a bit trite, but is like very apropos. That is a man trying to fight the sands of time. Like you can physically see him just being overwhelmed and digging into battle. And eventually he succumbs under the weight of the ocean. That is Yuri Prochazka's big red crazy button. But it is cinematic and beautiful and a violent ass knockout at the end. So I encourage any who missed it, go back, and the whole fight is fun and good. It's Yuri. Watch every time Yuri fights. He is one of like 5 fighters who it does not matter who he's fighting. Watch it. It will be awesome. But I thought this was better than the Jamal Hill one by a goodly margin. And I had a great time with it. And so shout out to my boy.
AK, who would have been your number 6?
Ooh, I mean, Lathrop, I think, is an easy choice. Of course, like I said before, Yuri does feel weird. He didn't crack any of our top 5s, and he had a great year. I feel like
he had a really good year.
I feel like we talked about Yuri a lot.
He had 2 very good years or 2 very good fights.
I actually need to go back to our honorable mention list because, like I said, I feel like there's guys that aren't even on the honorable mention list.
Yuri's on all of ours because I kept putting him there, fruitlessly voting for him when no one else did.
I remember one that almost made it was the Jean-Paul
Laboisnian. Yeah, that didn't really deserve it, but that was a good KO.
That would have been really fun.
I think there was a few like Cesar Almeida, Abdul Razak Al Hassan was on our short list. Ricky Simone.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm trying to think who else. Oh, Elijah Smith, he killed that dude. Shout out to my boy Elijah Smith.
That was a good one. Michael Morale,
Alex Pereira, I think, is the one that's the most obviously like, even though that KO is not that KO is very significant,
right?
Is very cool. I thought people might vote for it. I was never going to crack mine, but That's probably the one the viewers at home are being like, I can't believe that's not on there.
I kind of like wish I threw Michael Morales, Sean Brady on there.
One of Michael Morales is sure.
Yeah, I mean the Morales Brady finish was unbelievable. Like it literally like it opened my eyes, and I knew he was going to be good and a guy that could potentially fight for a belt. But that performance and that finish told me, okay, this guy could fight Islam Makhachev right now, and I'm dying to see it. Really want to see it. So yeah, there's a lot of great finishes, some that just flew under the radar, and it was a good year for finishes and knockout submissions, all of that stuff. But guys, we have delayed it long enough. I believe what you are about to witness is the most chaotic thing I've ever seen in MMA award show history. New York Rick's infamous Ronda Rousey is the comeback fighter of the year pick on the MMA Hour pales in comparison to what is about to happen here. There's just one award to go. It's the fighter of the year, and business, as the great Jim Ross says, is about to pick up. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the nominees for the 2025 MMA Fighting Fighter of the Year. Merab Dvalishvili, Joshua Van, Islam Makhachev, Piotr Yan, Valentina Shevchenko. And the 2025 MMA Fighting Fighter of the Year is the now two-division UFC champion, Islam Makhachev. 2-0 in 2025. Shout out to Islam Makhachev.
Well deserved.
Submits Hinata Moicano at UFC 311. Was not originally supposed to fight Hinata Moicano. He's supposed to fight Arman Tsarukyan. On a day's notice, Islam said, hey, I'm the champ. I will fight whoever the UFC tells me to fight. Doesn't care. Doesn't matter if it's a minute, a month, or a day's notice. I'm doing it. And then he goes up to 170, vacates the lightweight belt, fights Jack Della Maddalena, wins the welterweight title, barely broke a sweat doing it, dominant at Madison Square Garden to close out UFC 322, a very impactful event. Now, I know what you might be thinking, ladies and gentlemen, and you're thinking, Mike, I stuck around here for this whole show, and it's a great show, by the way. It's maybe the best award show I've ever watched in my entire life, and I'm expecting drama, I'm expecting chaos, and the fighter of the year is Islam Makhachev. Quite the leap of faith, quite the hot take, right? Clickbait. I'm seeing it all right now as you're live chatting the whole nine. Islam
show the
winning.
Scorecards.
Islam winning, not a big shock.
Just show the scorecards.
And we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And let me just say this as the host of this show. I'm going to mostly step aside. But here's what I'm going to say before I actually pull up the scorecard. I'm going to solo shot myself here. Damon Martin, who we have been talking about throughout this program. If there's a few things I know about Damon Martin, the man loves a good horror movie. Loves a good horror movie. He loves a great dramatic television show, especially like an FX show, a show created by the great Kurt Sutter. You know, Kurt Sutter created Sons of Anarchy, Mayans MC, and my favorite television show of all time, The Shield. Okay? I think Damon Martin might be the Vic Mackey of MMA fighting voters because there was a frigging robbery here. There was a robbery here of epic proportions. History should have been made here today on the show, but that's not going to happen on the show. And here is why, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, Islam Makhachev wins the Fighter of the Year solo. But at worst, he should have been sharing this award with our second place vote getter, the UFC Women's Flyweight Champion, Valentina Shevchenko, who got 3 first place votes, a second and a third. Islam got just 1 first place vote, wins the award. But David didn't even put Shevchenko in his top 5 after being the only fighter in the UFC this year to beat their division's #1 contender and also defeat, not just defeat, but dominate the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world in the same year. Nobody else did this. Nobody. I'm going to bring the list back up so you can really take this in. Take a look at it. Breathe it in. Piotr Yan coming in at number 3. Merab Dvalishvili, the former bantamweight champion, in at number 4. And the brand new UFC flyweight champion, Joshua Van, what a year for him, at number 5. Here's what I'll say before I turn it over to the fellers. Damon, I asked to come on the show. He was all in to come on this program. However, he hit me up earlier today as we record, having some Wi-Fi issues, did not want to commit to it, and his Wi-Fi issues have not been fixed. Trust me when I tell you this, Damon Martin ain't scared. He is not scared to come on here and run the gauntlet that was going to be thrown at him. I even said, hey, if you want to just throw out a little statement for me to read, we'll do it. It is Christmas Eve as we record. It's his day off, and he's got no Wi-Fi. So I totally understand what is going on here. But the last thing I'll say about this, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Jed, in a moment, is I said this earlier, and I truly believe this. AK showing up the MMA fighting side.
We're family. We're family. We're family.
Yes,
we're family.
and we say this out of
fight.
love.
Families fight. It's okay. We're family.
But I said this earlier, and I think it's true. I'm actually would be complete. This would be the most shocking thing if this is wrong. Damon Martin is the only person who casts a vote for an award on planet Earth covering MMA that did not vote for Valentina Shevchenko. And if we're splitting it male and female, if you looked at what he did here, he would be the only person in the world to not have Valentina Shevchenko as the top female fighter in 2025. Let's just pull this back up here. He voted for somebody else who is a women's fighter and a champion, and it was not Valentina Shevchenko. So even if we split it male and female, he wouldn't even have had Valentina Shevchenko at number 1, which is absolutely bananas. So Jed, let me start with you, because the three of us, you, AK, and I, we all had Valentina Shevchenko at number 1. Damon did not vote for her. And I know some of you heard his side of things and our Slack channel. I got to read some of his sides of things, and I don't agree with really anything that he said. I really wish he was here to defend his take, and that's fine. You guys can reach out to him. He'll welcome it, and he'll give his side of the story. Your reaction to how we got here, Jed, your reaction to what you have seen from Damon, and quite simply, the major question is, did Valentina Shevchenko get robbed of, at worst, being the co-fighter of the year for MMAfighting.com, so because of Damon Martin?
So I want to start by saying I'm glad we are recording this today, because I would have been a lot more hot about this yesterday. When the ballots dropped and I could see what happened, I was very displeased. I am still displeased because we can argue, as we have on this show, about the other selections. This is wrong. I don't even think I need to use like the words like objectively or subjectively. It is incorrect. There is not a rational, reasonable defense to not even include her. I will also say that I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I don't know if she would have shared number 1. She had 3 first place votes. Makhachev would have had 1 if he just ranked her at all. If he appropriately ranked her in the top 3 or 4, she would have cleanly won. And so, like, there's that. I want to say that I have settled down in this regard some, because I anticipated Islam Makhachev being our fighter of the year this year. That's what I thought. It's not what I voted. I believe it should be Valentina Shevchenko, but I didn't think there would be a sort of groundswell of support for her case to this. I think and in the terms of who's the fighter we're going to remember the most from this year, I think Islam's a good choice. Like, if that's how we're looking at it, I don't think you can go wrong by saying 2025 was the year Islam Makhachev stepped out from Khabib's shadow. He set the lightweight title defense record. Circumstances be damned, he still did it, and then he went up and he won the welterweight belt and established himself as arguably the best fighter of his generation. I don't think that's wrong, and my quibbles here are not to say that ranking that, as Guilherme did, ranking Islam number 1 is wrong. If you did that, I got no issue with that. I don't even have an issue with Damon ranking Petr Yan number 1. I think Petr Yan had a tremendous year. I had him ranked number 4 on my list, but you know, he had a serviceably good win against a ranked fighter in Marcus McGee. And then the best of all of the wins that anyone scored this year, his victory over Merab Dvalishvili is the best one. And so you want to give him fighter of the year? I'm okay with that too. There's just not a rational, reasonable argument that Valentina Shevchenko isn't ranked at all, especially one, the argument again, I'm not trying to make his arguments for him, because he can do that whenever he gets onto a pod and we can talk about it. But we did talk about this some yesterday, and two things stick out at me before I throw it to AK. One, the Kayla Harrison is unconscionable, right? Like this is a fighter who fought once this year, dominant win over Juliana Pena, sure, a finish, sure. Damon Martin has come on air many times to say that Juliana Pena is the worst fighter on roster. So, like, you can't hold that in the same esteem as beating the number one contender in your weight class and then fighting the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, who we all sort of acknowledged, one, that was a 50-50 odds on fight. And we all were like, maybe this is the GOAT fight. This might just be the fight between the GOATs right here. And she dominated that fight. And my last case, the last thing that I just want to point out, I told this on BTL and other stuff when I first sort of outlined my position here, Mike, is it's not like the Manon Fior win aged poorly. Manon didn't go fight her next fight and barely lose. She slaughtered Yasmin Yazidovicic. Like, Manon is the number one contender, and she beat her comfortably. Zhang Weili is, maybe the best female fighter on the planet. She's not, because Valentina exists, but outside of Valentina is the number one pound for pound fighter. Many people, Mike included, were picking her to go, not just win, but to win big. And Val cooked her on paper. Set aside the enjoyment factor you had. Nobody accomplished more than Valentina Shevchenko did this year, where she very possibly established herself as the greatest female fighter to ever live. That's why she was number one on my ballot, and I think it is unconscionable to leave her off entirely.
AK, we are civil. You are the Prince of Positivity. Yeah. We're all friends here. You showed the MMA Fighting logo. Your thoughts on this? And look, you're looking at this from a little bit of a different perspective, right? Because we have our own votes and all that, but you're the face that runs the place here. You run the ship here. You're the vote tabulator and all this when it comes to awards, and not just that, the MMA Fighting rankings. Like, these are not easy jobs that you're doing, trying to keep track of this. What is your reaction to this as someone who, look, you want us to have our individual says and you want us to like have our beliefs, but at the same token, like, this is wild. Like, this is simply wild. Like, this single-handedly caught, like, at worst, if he voted for Hamzat Chimaev here. If he gives the 5 points to Valentina, her and Islam are co-fighters of the year. And honestly, like, that is not that's fine. But leaving her off this list altogether, I don't get it. I really don't get it. But looking through your shoes as someone who's kind of running all of this, what's your reaction to it?
Yeah, look, nothing but the greatest respect for Damon. Like, I know the more we have to say it, people are probably thinking like, wow, they must really be annoyed by Damon's voting. It's like, we don't agree. I think Jed has outlined it. I'm not going to go over all of Jed's points. Jed pretty much outlined every reason why I agree. I think it's almost indefensible the way Damon's ballot turned out. But at the same time, I don't want to police people's voting too much, right? So we said earlier in the show, we don't do a year-end powwow. We do a short list. We kind of ask everyone, was there anything that we forgot off the list? That's really it. Because we don't want to have a meeting where we say, hey guys, like, to avoid us as a collective, to avoid the website looking ridiculous, let's all agree this name, this knockout, this submission involved, this fight has to be on the list. That's a slippery slope to me. Going forward, we may do that. I will say 2026, maybe because of this controversy, the precedent has now been set where we have to do that. And I'm not against the idea. But you guys at home, you guys in the comments, let us know, because I'm feel like you're against it. So Jeff's against it.
I don't think we should. I think that it is probably valid to at least have a conversation, not like a specific, but like a, hey, and kind of we talked about some stuff at various points. Like, there are always conversations going, but like, I'm with you. I don't think we should police people's ballots. And so at the end of the day, like, we just have to take this, and that's okay, even though I think it straight up just looks bad. Yeah. I believe that this is bad.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one because, we say we don't have meetings for the reason that we're like, some things to us seem obvious. Like, this is not even something, let's say we had a meeting, it's something like we wouldn't even feel the need to bring up, right? Like none of us would go like, oh, by the way, guys, let's make sure Valentina's on the ballot. Like it would just be unsaid. Like we would all that's why we don't have these meetings. Generally we don't see something like this. So I do want to play. I said because Damon's not here, and I hope I'll suggest this to him later. You know, he has guys. I hope you're listening to Fighter versus Writer with him, Matt Brown, every week. I hope he maybe takes 10 minutes beginning of his next episode before he starts talking to Matt. Just record a little
and
thing.
real quick, I don't mean to step on your toes, AK. I'm gonna let you finish. Just so you know, just so we're all on the same page here. Dave, like I said, Dave was supposed to come on. He literally said, like, say whatever you gotta say. Like he's not, you know, it's not
Damon
a thing where
never,
it's like
never shied away from a fight.
Never,
yeah,
man, never.
He's
the man.
He's like, hey, I may not be able to make it, but if I don't, like, feel free to trash me, say whatever you need to say. So he knows this is coming. This is not a sneak attack by any way, shape, or form. But AK, I turn it over to you.
And we're not going to do that. We're not going to try. Like I said, I'm not here to trash Damon. Damon's our guy, man. Like I said, and Damon has his own opinions. I never, the last thing I'd ever want is for any of us to say, as Jed said, he disagrees too. The idea that we all saying, well, our ballots have to look at least somewhat like this. Because that just kind of defeats the whole purpose of it, right? You would hope there wouldn't be an egregious omission that you feel like 98% of the MMA community would disagree with. Like you would hope that doesn't happen, but this is when you allow, you know, individuality, right? This is what we're, so at that, I don't take much offense to it. I will say Jed, you just did an amazing job breaking it down. I'm glad you, like I said, you've kind of cooled off from when this first came to light for you. Even yesterday, I will say, even before the day before we're recording this episode, I was setting up for like a holiday gathering and Jed was messaging me and I almost kind of had to tell the people I was like setting stuff up with, like, guys, I have to pause. I have a friend who's in crisis right now. That's almost, he was still so kind of like jarred so I had to like step aside, give Jed a little messaging time because it does feel strange. Again, so I will play Damon's advocate very quickly. I think if you want to look at Kayla Harrison being included because it is sort of this culmination of her journey to UFC champion, which I guess is building for a long time. It was a finish. If you guys want to credit finishes more than decisions, I don't necessarily do that, and I certainly wouldn't in the case of Valentina and 2 wins. I actually think her 2 decision wins over Manon and Zhang are more impressive than what Kayla did. Not that what Kayla did isn't impressive. Because no matter what you think of Juliana Pena, whether you like her or not, personality-wise, whether you think she's a good fighter or not, that was a high-stakes fight. Juliana does have some big wins, and Kayla finished her, as she was supposed to, right? She was a pretty big favorite. So I do give credit to Kayla for taking care of business. So if you want to include her for that reason, there's that. Why did he include Shemaev? Again, same story with Kayla, this sort of undefeated, I mean, Kayla's not undefeated, but you know what I mean, essentially viewed as undefeated, this monster fighter finally making it top of the mountain, finally doing what they're supposed to do, become champion. So those I think are where Damon is coming from. I know he doesn't think much of the competition at women's 125 and below. So again, mileage may vary there. That is just this is not my opinion. I'm just playing Damon's advocate. He does not think much of the lighter women's weight classes. He doesn't think much of women's bantamweight either, I don't think. But again, maybe he just views it as like, well, you know, I'm having trouble defending it because again, I'm not him and I don't agree with this, but that Kayla's dominant, quote unquote, dominant win was more impressive than Valentina's dominant win over Zhang because Zhang was smaller. This is just his reasoning, some parts of his reasoning, not his whole case. So again, I just wanted to put it out there. Like there's like thoughts there that I'm sure some people would agree with. I'm not one of them. But since he's not here, I do feel like it's fair to point out some of these things.
And that's the thing, you're not wrong. And AK, when you said that, like, I was in crisis because I was talking to Damon. Like, this wasn't like I was stewing mad. Like, I had said something, and then he and I started talking. Okay. And as he defended his position, it got even less tenable to me. Like his arguments for why were not sound to me. They were competing against his arguments for why not for others, because like, okay, like, hey, all right, I get it. Petr Yan had a great year, and so did Islam Makhachev, Kayla Harrison fought once against a fighter you think is bad. How is that? Well, she finished her. Okay, well, Hamzat didn't finish Dricus.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the
No,
thing for
but
me.
like she was a dominant champion. It's like, okay, Zhang is a dominant champion and the Manon fight. Yeah, but I was bored. I'm sorry. Did you watch the Hamzat fight? That fight is pretty boring, man. Like there are pieces, and individually you can make the argument. And I would even be open to the like, she kind of bores me. Okay, like you don't have to put her at number one, but like because you find her boring and you may be critical of her opposition or whatever. Like those are credible arguments to dock somebody's, standing in it. But to completely invalidate on paper obviously good wins it's indefensible, and I think it's a very bad look to do, because these are, whether you think the opposition is good or not, those wins are good wins. Like they and whether they were boring or not, they're boring. I ain't here to tell you Valentina Shevchenko should be the most exciting fighter of 2025. That would be a lie. But what she accomplished, because an argument the last argument I sort of made on this point is like, if the grading scale is whether I'm entertained by it, I would not have ranked Merab. I find Merab tedious. But it would have been ludicrous to deny his accomplishments this year, even with the loss. So all of it kind of makes sense. And if it was one of them, like if this was a debate on, you ranked Hamzat Chimaev, who had one fight this year, and that fight was widely trashed as garbage, and you ranked him, I at least could swallow that one better. If that was the number 5 and the other 4 were like pretty obvious, right? And you're just kind of playing with that number, because you look at our ballots, right? Mike, you, me, and AK, we have the same 5 people. And that doesn't, like you said, we don't need to be uniform here, but Jose has 4 of the same 5. Guilherme has 4 of the same 5. Damon goes off the board twice. And it's really bad. And honestly, I don't know that he would ever say this. I don't know that maybe this is a subconscious thing. It feels to me like when Casey used to just get a notion and he was going to die on that hill. And like, Siki Izawa is the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. And and he got a notion in his head. I don't like Valentina Shevchenko because she's boring. I'm not going to do this. And he dug his feet in, and that is his right. It's also my right to be like, my brother, you are objectively false to not acknowledge her accomplishment. You don't have to like her accomplishment. God knows I didn't like any of Merab's. Yeah. You have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, you didn't include either of Merab's fights on your fight of the year list, right? We should know you did not, but you still included him on your fighter of the year ballot.
Fighter of the year,
I will say,
not only included him, he's number 3 on my list, and I don't like him.
You made it very clear. You've hated his fighting style for years.
For years,
but like I think you described it.
What he accomplished is what he accomplished. You can't separate those two things, and so I'm no longer mad at Damon. I was mad at Damon. I'm disappointed. That's where I'm at now.
No, that's worse. That's so much worse.
I do think it's a shame that it's almost like Valentina's getting punished for how dominant she was over Zhang, because it did expose how much bigger and stronger she was. Like, if that had been a back and forth, more competitive battle and Zhang had looked better, would Damon and other people have viewed that differently? Like, one, obviously, would have been a more exciting fight, but 2, would they have said, oh, clearly Zhang can compete at 125 and Valentina had to reach down deep to pull out a win? What a performance by the defending champion. And like, it's weird because she, like, for me, it's like the fact that she was so dominant is so impressive. And like you said, Jed, that's why we should have to have her on the list. It would not have changed for me if it had been a more competitive fight and she'd still won. She probably would just be number 1 and gone from number 1 to number 1. So that she is being punished for how easy she made that fight look. It feels like,
yeah,
it diminished. Right. Maybe.
Listen, Valentina to me is just the automatic default based on where we were like 3 months ago, because it was
supposed to be Merab.
It was supposed to be Merab. 100% it was supposed to be Merab Dvalishvili. Like, he was the guy without question. If Merab were to lose, at least in our eyes, the only guy who could take it, maybe Islam could have got it, was Josh Van. And the way he won the belt, like, he ended up finishing number 5. He went 4-0 from unranked to champion, and he finished number 5. Like, it's just because of the way he won the belt. Like, it's a legit win, but we learned nothing from it. We just learned that, hey, you're great at catching a man's foot and dumping him on his elbow.
You know what?
And that's a legit win.
Pantoja should have gone for the jumping ninja kick. That's what we learned about that fight.
Gotta learn from
Damn
Let's
right.
Rock. From Let's Rock.
Damn right.
I just feel good though. At least I do feel like our list.
We got the 5 right.
The 5 is correct.
Right, and it feels so weird to like say that Islam being number 1, at least like the way the voting turned out, is controversial because he's the best fighter in the world. He is the number 1 fighter in the world. Like I think we've acknowledged.
And you know who the other best fighter in the world is? Valentina Shevchenko. So we got it right in that. Like it's the 2 top pound fighters.
Yeah.
And back to what I said at the very beginning, right? And this is why I cooled off yesterday. I was pretty fiery yesterday because, again, I think it's insane. This is the outcome I thought. I thought Val would be number 2 to Makhachev because I am surprised that both of you, I knew Mike had already told me, yeah, I think I'm actually going to put Valentina Shevchenko number 1. I was surprised you did, AK. I'm glad that you did.
I just follow everything you do, Jed. We know this.
Well,
You're very.
I
look up to you.
That is a bad choice on your part. But like I felt very confident in the 5. To me, this was a 5-horse race and nobody else was involved. In part because like Michael Morales is the only fighter on our honorable mention list who I was like, oh, I didn't really consider him. And I don't think I would have because frankly, he probably would deserve it more, but I might have put like Walter Cortez Acosta as my number 6.
Yep.
But I was like,
my 6.
But like, these are just the 5. They're to me, they were clearly the 5 because Merab Dvalishvili was the front runner. And then you knock him. He did lose a fight, but it was a great fight. And he dared to be great. So you knock him some in the same way that Alabama, got moved to a lower seed in the college football playoffs. They played in the SEC championship, they lost. But you don't totally remove his year because even with that loss, on paper, a great year. The Umar win is sensational. The Corey Sandhagen win is very good, and he finished Sean O'Malley. So that wins. That's a great year. You keep him there. Islam Val, we've talked plenty about. Piotr Jan, mentioned him already, and then Josh Van. To me, those 5 are the 5. And that's why it's like, okay, maybe for your number 5 spot, you mix something in, you do something different, a little wacky. You don't do it twice when there are so clearly 5 people who have elevated themselves in the year they accomplished, in my mind.
Yeah.
And you don't do it for 2 fighters who fought once, because outside of Damon doing this specifically, I'll tell all of you, as long as I'm at this website, as long as I'm on this panel, I will never give Fighter of the Year to somebody who competed once. I simply will not do it. It does not matter what that win is. If the ghost of Demetrius Johnson returns to the UFC and he fights Tom Aspinall and beats him, he's not going to get Fighter of the Year unless he fights at least one more time. It does not matter, because it's not the fighter of the one event. It is the fighter of the year. You must do stuff all year long.
The only, like, honestly, when there are some things that I was not going to be surprised about. This obviously is shocking for a number of reasons. I was like, there's only going to be 7 names on the Fighter of the Year list. And one of those fighters to me was one of the fighters who fought once. If you're going to give anybody, and I wouldn't do this either, but if you're going to give any of these guys in the honorable mention a shout, it's Ilia Topuria.
He has an argument. I wouldn't do it, but he does have an argument.
He has
Jose doing that, I'm okay with.
I'm fine with it because he won the belt in the toughest division in the entire sport. He vacated. He was already champion. He dumped it, moved up to 155. Did he beat the best lightweight in the world? No, but he had the most impactful moment of the year, in my opinion, and he won the toughest title in the sport, in my humble opinion. And that to me is more impactful than Kayla's win, who, by the way, Topuria is a big favorite, but he wasn't a minus 900 favorite like Kayla was. And Hamzat, it was a good win for Hamzat, but like, again, we want to like brush that aside. Like we're ready to run ahead. We don't want to go back and rewatch that. We'll go back and rewatch the entire build to Ilia Topuria knocking out Charles Oliveira because it was incredible. Like all of it was incredible. It was like a game-changing moment in the sport. That's why that was so impactful. It's just such a weird list. Like, and honestly, the other name I think, the only other name that I think should even be in consideration is Waldo. Is Waldo going
I
forward?
actually like the Michael Morales inclusion. I'm kind of with Guy on that.
Yeah,
just
that's a good
as
one.
a shout out of like, oh, I didn't even consider him realistically.
I like Guy's list. I like the Morales one. Him leaving Van off was a little shocking, but again, it's
also-
the number 5 spot.
He also left Van off Breakthrough Fighter of the Year.
I say
don't know.
He don't like Josh Van.
I messaged you that yesterday, but here's the thing. Weird. I can accept that. And you know why I can accept that? Because I didn't talk to Guy about this. I'm going to guarantee you yeah, man. Had the title win been better, both of these would have been true, but I don't know how to rate that. It doesn't feel like a win. And so he has the belt. But if you do just kind of view the Pantoja win as a nothing, as a no contest, even though that's not what it is, but we understand the inclination to kind of view it as like a whatever, then his year's not. It's, it's like it's a good year. He beat Brandon Royval. He still probably should be on the breakthrough fighter of the year, even if it's just beating Royval. But like, I can understand that. I can grasp that, especially when you're talking about the 5th place spot on fighter of the year. That's so. And I honestly, I liked that because like, oh, I didn't even consider Michael Morales, and Michael Morales had a really good year.
He did.
Shouts to him in this position because he got the 4 big ones with Josh Van being kind of an oddball, right? Like we all can acknowledge it's a little odd. I would like to ask you both a question that I've been pondering. I was pondering in my rankings, and you can see how I ultimately did it. But fairly split with one person not even ranking him. How did y'all come to your decision of the Piotr Jan versus Merab Dvalishvili ranking for this year?
Yeah.
Because I struggled with it, honestly. And you see Jose left him off entirely, left Piotr off entirely. Damon left Merab off entirely.
Wow.
I think I disagree with both of those calls, frankly, but like I can understand an argument there, I guess. The Merab one I think is bad. I think that's worse than the Piotr one, oddly, but y'all also did this. You both had Piotr ranked higher than you had Merab.
Uh-huh.
Is that just because the head-to-head? Like, how did you gauge that?
Because Piotr 5-0'd him, in my opinion. So, like, to me, like, and I know he dared, Merab went and tried to do something cool. And again, like you said, this is the Alabama thing for me. This is like it's ultimately on him. Like when you take that risk, everything that's on you put everything on the line. You put fighter of the year on the line. You put your title on the line. Whatever happens, happens. It's just like Volkanovski fighting Islam Makhachev for the 2nd time. I don't care if it's a week notice. When you get on a microphone and you say, I'm going to go out there and smash this dude, even if it's on a week notice, this will not be an excuse. You can then no longer use it as an excuse. Yeah, he fought 4 times, but he said it's not an excuse. I'm going to go smoke this fool, and then I'm going to go and fight 3 times again in 2026. He lost. There are no excuses. That's it. So Jan gets it, but I'm not going to dock him too much. He deserves to be on this list. But Jan, honestly, my biggest conundrum with Jan was do I rank him higher than Islam? That was honestly
they had comparable resumes.
Jan's title win to me is 100 million times more impactful than Islam's. Islam did it in a 2nd division and he took a huge risk, so I have to put that in. I have to put that in the conversation. And then I have to what will be remembered. Yeah, what will be remembered more? Islam's welterweight title win or Jan's bantamweight title win? Islam's going to win this one. It's at MSG. It's just a more impactful win. But Jan's performance was better, and it meant more because JDM, while he had the welterweight belt and he was a true champion, there were a lot of people who did not feel he was the best welterweight in the world. Everyone knew Merab was the best bantamweight in the world. There are many people who already deemed him the greatest bantamweight ever of all time, the GOAT, the greatest of all time in the history of that weight class. And Jan went in there and smoked him. I thought he won all 5 rounds, and I didn't even think it's like a debate. I think he won all 5 rounds against the greatest bantamweight ever. So to me, that I weighed that so much. The determining factor was impact and how do I rate the 2nd wins for each guy? Because I got to tell you, Hinata Moicano, there was a part of me that's like, I might rank the Marcus McGee win more than the Hinata Moicano win. I just might. Because I think McGee's good. And I think he will eventually probably be like a top 7-ish guy at 135. I think he can get there. He is talented. He needs some tougher competition. And I think he's going to take a ton away from this Jan loss. He won a round against Petr Yan. He went out there and like, he was very competitive with Jan. Renato, we knew Renato had no chance to beat Islam. None. It was like you could not put on a piece of paper a worse matchup for Renato Moicano in the world than Islam Makhachev. So that was like the conundrum. That was honestly the toughest decision I had to make. Is Jan number 2 or is Islam number 2? Because Valentina to me was the defaulto number 1 after Josh Van won the belt the way he did, and after Jan won the bantamweight title. I'm like, by default, it's Valentina, just based on what your criteria is. And to me, it was just, is it Jan or Islam in the silver medal spot? And I struggle with that. Ultimately, I landed with Islam because the impact of doing it at 322, winning a second belt, the year he had, vacating, all of it, the drama behind the 315 fight. Like, Islam Makhachev made JDM Bilal bigger without even fighting, without even being in the building. So to me, by like a nose, I gave it to Islam.
AK, is that sort of why you went Jan over Merab? I battled back and forth. It was a very difficult decision for me.
Yeah, it's that thing we talk about where we sometimes punish fighters for silly reasons, right? We're essentially punishing Merab for making this fight happen, for being available for this fight to happen in December, as opposed to getting pushed to January, February, right? Because if it's just Merab 3-0, I'm done for the year. I'm not defending until 2026. Petr Yan's waits for him. Merab probably still our fighter of the year. Petr Yan
a really good chance.
Petr Yan doesn't even make the list, right? It's just because. But the fight happened. We can't rule it out. And Petr Yan looked fantastic. He won essentially my fight of the. This was my fight of the year, right? The show's been going on for 10 hours. I've forgotten my but one of my top 5 fights of the year. Merab won. Petr Yan won. There we go. There it is. And that matters to me. That certainly counts. He stole his story. It shouldn't work that way, and it wouldn't be that way for everyone, right? It's not like anyone can just come in and if they'd beaten Merab, okay, well now you're the fight of the year, or you take his spot in the fighter of the year list. That's not necessarily the case. But I think Petr Yan, the McGee win was really good. That's just a little extra on the side. But because we built it up so much as like, oh, this is Merab. He's locking it down as the fighter of the year if he wins this, the greatest bantamweight of all time if he wins this. And Petr Yan so definitively stopped that. Man, it just did not feel right to put Merab over him. And it sucks because Merab won 3 title fights this year. And they were all good ones. I mean,
impressive performances.
The first, the Umar fight, one of my favorite fights of the year. O'Malley fight, more dominant than the first time we fought O'Malley. And then Sandhagen fight, another really, really good fight. Like, these were not bad. There was not a stinker in there where you're like, this was forgettable and whatever. Workman-like decision win for Merab. No, man, he showed different facets of these fights. He looked good. He was facing tough competition. All the top contenders, top 5. I don't know where you rank them. They're all top 5. I think Sandhagen, O'Malley, and Umar, you had to say they're all top 5 when he fought them. So it seems so unfair. But head-to-head matters. Reality matters, what we saw happen. And Petr Yan, as of now, is a better fighter than Merab. Will they fight again? Probably. Can Merab win? For sure has a chance to win the trilogy. But right now, Petr Yan's the man, and his reward is just a slight bump ahead in our 2025 list.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how to do it. I ultimately looked at it as Merab has the best of the wins. Of the 5 wins, Merab is the best. Or not Merab, sorry, Petr is the best. Merab's 3 other wins are better, much better than the Marcus McGee. And it's like, okay, I think we'll go there. But, and obviously Jose agrees. He still had Merab as his number 1 thing. He made it very tricky because I don't know that I've ever voted for a fighter of the year loss before. But the rest of the year was so strong. Like, how do you not? And so it was a weird one this year, but
did Pereira win fighter of the year after he lost the middleweight title? Oh no, that was Sean Strickland. But there are a lot of people who vote for Pereira.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but Sean Strickland had lost in December, so he had not lost that year for fighter of the year.
But Pereira got knocked out by Izzy and then won the light heavyweight belt at the end of the year. I remember.
I may have voted for Pereira that year. That still he didn't win it, but I may have in fact voted. So I guess there's that. But
Strickland won it.
It was just a weird year. It was a little bit of a weird year in that the way you said it, Mike, I think is right. I voted Val. I think Val deserved to win. It was a little bit of a default, which is somewhat disrespectful because on paper it's a great year. but that is the story of Valentina Shevchenko, arguably the most dominant champion in the past 15 years that we all just sort of don't care about because she's so dominant over everybody she ever fights that it's just like, whatever, we assume greatness will happen. And so maybe it's more fitting that way. And I certainly think the viewers are probably like, yeah, it's Islam Makhachev. What the hell's going on? And I don't think this will age poorly, right? Like, I think in 5 years, we'll look back and be like, yeah, 2025 was Islam's year. That seems right. And Val was a great year, but yeah, contentious one this year, boys.
For sure. I'm still stunned by all of this. I think we don't do this, but even, we don't have to like do a whole article or anything, but can we crown Valentina Shevchenko the MMA Fighting Female Fighter of the Year for the sake of what's fair and just?
Of course.
Okay, she's the female.
I have wondered if
Valentina
we should
Shevchenko.
do that. Not to do it for other categories, because I think that would be a bit silly to do like women's knockout of the year. I don't think that's necessary, but I do kind of think maybe we should do female fighter of the year. But alas, that would be for a future year.
Well, let us know in the comments what you
then
think
all of
about
this
that
would
idea.
not be a matter at all. I mean, it still would, because she wouldn't be unanimous, because Kayla would have a first place vote,
which is absolutely insane, absolutely wild. But who knows? Kayla goes out there and beats Amanda Nunes and gets another win, then she'll probably be, maybe she'll be the inaugural female fighter of the year. So I think you guys spent enough time with us. So hopefully if you had long drives, we got you to where you needed to go. And that's, you're about to hear the music here. But Jed, any final words for the peeps before we get on out of here?
No, man. It has been a heck of a year, a Mike heck of a year, some might even say. I've had a wonderful time doing this show with y'all. More to come. Obviously, the write-ups for all of our stuff will be dropping in the next few days. We will also have a sort of best of the rest for those sorts of awards that we didn't cover here. The more fun categories. Take of the year might be going to one of our very own as a result of some of the things that have happened here today. But it's been a great time. And it was a very, very solid year. Not the best year. If you listen to Festivus, you know, wasn't the highest year, but I feel good about where all our awards ended up, even if the road to get there maybe wasn't what I expected or even what I respect in some regards.
AK.
Yeah, man, we nailed it. We nailed it as we do every year. Yeah, I think if people just look at the top, who the winners were, for the most part, who were the top three in each category, I just don't see how there can be much room for debate. Ignore the voting. Don't worry about the individual voting. You know, I may not even include those in the posts. Maybe we avoid this because after people listen to the show, I'm sure they'll have a reaction. And by some chance, people didn't listen to the show and they end up, digging deeper and seeing those ballots themselves and have some free time in their hands. Might not be too happy with some of us, but we're not worried about that, guys. We stay positive. It has been a fun year, really fun. Like I said, most importantly, to look back on some of these awesome moments and awesome storylines we had. And yes, there will be plenty more of that on MMAfighting.com. So stay locked in.
Well, final words from me. First of all, thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your team. And I think I speak for everybody. We are the luckiest people in the world that we get to do this for all of you. The best community of fans in MMA and in all of sports, in my humble opinion. None of this is possible without you, and we appreciate you so much. From all of us at MMA Fighting, thank you for the support all year long, and it is truly my hope, and I'm sure I speak for everybody else, our hope that you have the best holiday ever, whatever it is you celebrate, that you enjoy the rest of 2025, and that 2025 wraps up in the absolute best possible way. So my name is Mike Heck. That was AK. That is Jed Meshew. And this has been MMA Fighting's 2025 award show. Good night, everybody.